Chapter 2071. Chu Yang's voice was very low, but what were the cultivations of the people present? Even if it was 1,000 times lower, they could still hear it clearly. Everyone who had the same idea felt their hearts skip a beat. Then, they started to worry. They looked at each other and knew that there were so many people who had the same idea as them. They couldn't help but feel bad. Even when the two geniuses had been discovered, everyone had hoped that they had good foresight, that they would be able to recognize the talents and hope that they would be lucky. However, the reality was cruel. If you had good foresight, why couldn't others have good foresight as well? Now, there were too many wolves and too little meat. It was really awkward. Hai Lianbo suddenly stood up and said loudly, "Ling Xiao faction's great elder Hai Lianbo invites little brother Chu for a talk. What do you think?" Hai Lianbo's high-profile appearance made the other small sects sigh sadly and completely give up. With such a huge figure coming out, what else could they compete for? Who dared to compete? Of course, there were also some big sects that didn't give up. "We are indeed not as good as your Ling Xiao faction, but we are not weak either. Besides, the conditions that we offer may not be worse than your Ling Xiao faction. Dreamlike mundane world pavilion, sky dome spiritual mountains snowy snow, elder Hai and brother Chu at the same time. What do you think, brother Chu?" Since both sides had decided to form an alliance, Shuexian naturally had to help Hai Lianbo. Not to mention that she still had to figure out Chu Yang's identity. She had to come out. With Shuexian's appearance, the other big sects all gave up and didn't dare to be rash. If it was only Hai Lianbo, everyone still had some confidence to compete. But now, Dreamlike Mundane World Pavilion had also come out and made their position clear. They had joined forces with Ling Xiao faction. The rest had no hope at all. Although everyone was unwilling, they could only swallow their anger. Facing two big figures at the same time was definitely not a joke. Chu Yang smiled in his heart and said, "Seniors, please meet me in the back hall later." Everything was under control. Everything was going according to plan. Everything was as planned. Divine Dr. Chu is really resourceful. It's only been a few days since you broke through the void and came up here, but you've already built up a big business in Xixia City. You've even gained the favor of the city lord here. Now, you've become the heavenly weapon auction hall master, and you've even set an amazing record in your first auction transaction. The rare treasures displayed are even more eye-opening. I believe that even if this achievement isn't unprecedented, it's enough to show disdain for the current generation. Hai Lianbo had an amiable look on his face. His face was full of smiles as he gave his New Year's greetings. But, he revealed Chu Yang's background in just a few sentences. This was naturally not surprising. With Hai Mingbo's status and influence, it was very easy for him to find out Chu Yang's details. He didn't even need to speak. He only needed to give a look, and a large number of people would investigate everything clearly. Then, they would gather all the information and report it to him. As a newcomer to the imperial court, to be able to achieve such accomplishments, this old man is extremely impressed. However, there's one thing that I'm rather puzzled about, and I hope little brother can clear it up for me. Hai Mingbo stroked his beard and said lightly, "Logically speaking, this auction shouldn't have landed in your hands." Hai Mingbo's sunken eyes shot out a sharp ray of light. He said lightly, "There are many qualified auction halls in this heavenly imperial court. In this Xixia city, there's enough to find hundreds of auction halls. Why did it have to be you? And you haven't even been auctioned before." Chu Yang was stunned. This great elder Hai's face changed too quickly. He was still praising Chu Yang for being young and promising in the first sentence, and now, he's questioning him. However, this sentence was very reasonable. Even if it was really inconvenient for the mysterious person who took out these rare treasures to come out personally, and he had to hand over something to Chu Yang, when it came to choosing, Chu Yang wouldn't have the chance to do so even if there were another 10,000 rounds. However, such a great thing just had to land in his hands. What was the reason? Chu Yang knew that if he were in Hai Mingbo's shoes, he would also ask, and he would also ask directly. Such a question not only pointed to the crux of the problem, but also cut off Chu Yang's chance to change the topic. He didn't even have time to think about other answers, and had to answer directly. In this way, the chances of it being the true answer would naturally be the highest. Even if it wasn't a completely true answer, it would definitely be very close to the true answer. Shuexian looked at Chu Yang without blinking her beautiful eyes. Obviously, she was also waiting for the answer to this question. Why you? Why me? At this moment, he naturally couldn't not answer this question. However, this question was really not easy to answer, because if he didn't answer well, all the things that Chu Yang had done before would all go to waste, and even a great danger would befall him. This matter does indeed have a hidden story behind it. Chu Yang made up his mind and said, since Elder Hai asked directly, I might as well tell you the whole story. Anyway, everyone is a part of the Eastern Royal Heavens, and this auction was actually entrusted by someone. And from there, I'll lead the thread. Entrusted by someone? Lead the thread? Hai Mingbo smiled and said, I wonder who that person is. Where is he now? This old man is all ears. Elder Hai, Shuexian, what I'm going to say next may be a little beyond common sense, but it's something that I've personally experienced. Whether the two of you believe it or not, this is the truth. I'll say it first, and I hope the two of you won't take offense. Chu Yang said very sincerely. Little brother, you can say it one by one. The two of us naturally believe that you won't casually make up a story to fool us. This old man and Shuexian have been honed for countless years, and it's not to the extent that we can't tell the truth from the lies, Elder Hai said in a low voice, but the meaning in his voice was already faintly discernible. It's like this. Some time ago, a patient fell from the sky, and it's really a person who fell from the sky. Chu Yang revealed a very awkward expression and pointed to the sky. Shuexian and Hai Mingbo looked at each other and nodded. The matter of a patient falling from the sky was certainly very sudden. Very few people knew about it. However, it wasn't that no one knew about it. And, these two people had already known that such a strange thing had happened in Chu Yang's place. In fact, any bit of strange information in Purple Cloud City within a year had been collected by these two big sects. Now that the soul-suppressing stone ruins was involved, any bit of information could be of great use, and intelligence naturally ranked first. So a person falling from the sky, this kind of thing that sounded absolutely inconceivable to ordinary people, was a matter of course in the ears of these two people. This junior has some experience in medical skills, and in the spirit of a doctor's benevolence, I tried my best to save this patient, and luckily saved him. It was this patient who gradually recovered after recuperating for a period of time, and introduced me to this business. Chu Yang's words gave people a subtle feeling that he was holding back a lot. But one thing was certain, this patient was definitely not an ordinary person. Hai Mingbo's face became serious, and he asked softly, may I ask who this patient is? Where is he now? Chu Yang frowned. In fact, I also don't know his identity, and he didn't mention it until he left. As he said, he suddenly realized something, and said, oh right, before he left me a jade pendant. Jade pendant? Hai Mingbo and Shuexian asked at the same time. Yes. Chu Yang put his hand into his chest, and said, I don't know his identity, but this jade pendant is a very exquisite thing. Before he finished speaking, his hand had already reached out. In his palm, there was a jade pendant. This jade pendant was sparkling and green, and looked very cute. Yang Russian never asked for his jade pendant back after he gave it to Chu Yang. At this moment, he took it out to use the tiger's skin as a banner. Hai Mingbo reached out and took it, and saw two big words engraved on the surface of the jade pendant, oath. Oath. Shuexian exhaled a long breath. She and Hai Mingbo's expressions became serious. On the back of the jade pendant, there were 8 words written vertically, a monarch's oath is the foundation of standing. There were 4 small words, a word is as heavy as a mountain. At the bottom, there was an almost unrecognizable symbol. It was very blurry. But when Hai Mingbo and Shuexian saw that special symbol, their expressions changed instantly. Obviously, when they saw the words and the symbol, they already knew who this patient was, and what his identity was. It was him. It was actually him. But, how did the number 1 general of the Oath Division get so seriously injured? And he even fell from the sky, and landed in the geographically remote Xixia city. Hai Mingbo and Shuexian looked at each other, and they both felt that it was a little inconceivable and puzzling. Speaking of which, in terms of cultivation, both of them were higher than Yang Rushan, and in Xuexian's case, she was more than one level higher. Not only were the two of them prominent in their respective sects, but they were also high-ranking figures in the entire Heaven Imperial Court. However, Yang Rushan was a government official. Compared to the city lord of Xixia City, although he was also a government official, Elder Hai and Xuexian would still give him some face, but they might not really take him seriously. If they really had something important to say, they would definitely ignore him completely. But if the person was Yang Rushan, the two of them could not be mentioned in the same breath. They were two completely different things. Because besides being a government official, Yang Rushan was also the #1 general in charge of the Oath Division. This kind of identity was close to the center. If necessary, Yang Rushan's words could definitely reach the ears of Emperor Donghuang. This was serious. This kind of identity was enough to make the two of them pay more attention to him. They never expected that it was Yang Rushan who stepped forward and introduced that mysterious guest. Did that mean that this person was actually a government official? When the two of them thought of this, a strange feeling arose in their hearts. Chapter 2072. While they were talking in the auction hall, something happened outside as well. After successfully obtaining the purple crystal jade essence, the third leader of the Iron Blood Alliance, greedy wolf Jiyu Xinwu, didn't stay any longer. He chose to leave immediately. In order to obtain this piece of purple crystal jade essence, the Iron Blood Alliance had become the target of public scorn in the auction house. Those super sects didn't make a move now, but that didn't mean they wouldn't after the auction. Once they made a move, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. So Jiyu Xinwu left at once. Right now, the remaining 3 auction items were attracting everyone's attention, creating an opportunity for Jiyu Xinwu to escape. In fact, when Jiyu Xinwu attacked Chu Yang just now, he wanted to give him a hard time. Even if Chu Yang didn't die, he would be seriously injured. But the moment he attacked, Jiyu Xinwu changed his mind. If anything happened to Chu Yang, or even if he was seriously injured, this auction would be over. At that time, he wouldn't be able to leave. So he held back and only caused Chu Yang to suffer some internal injuries. No matter how good his plan was, it couldn't compare to the change. This piece of purple crystal jade essence had to be returned as soon as possible. If the leader could use this piece of purple crystal jade essence to break through to the peak of the heaven level, then the overall strength of the Iron Blood Alliance would rise to another level. In other words, they wouldn't need to fear anything in the future. But just as Jiyu Xinwu thought, his plan couldn't compare to the change. He had just turned a corner and was about to return to the Jin clan when a green figure suddenly appeared in front of him without a sound. "You want to leave?" This person's beard fluttered as he smiled at him. "What? Scared?" On the roof, something that looked like a little white cat quietly crouched down. "What the hell, this person looks very strong. Master whose cultivation hasn't fully recovered yet, so I'm not this person's match. Who are you?" Jiyu Xinwu asked cautiously. Although he couldn't see through his opponent's strength, his intuition told him that the person in front of him was very strong. "Millimeter, you don't have the right to ask who I am. All you need to know is that I don't like you. Furthermore, I really like that piece of purple crystal jade essence." The green-robed old man's robes fluttered as he spoke. This person's words were very straightforward. In an instant, their opposing positions were clear and there was no room for reconciliation. "You like it?" Jiyu Xinwu's eyes shone with a cold light. "There are many people who like this jade marrow. So what if you like it? The purple crystal jade essence is right here, let's see if you have the ability to take it away." Jiyu Xinwu instantly pushed his cultivation to the peak. Since there was no way to resolve this peacefully, he could only use force to resolve this. The green-robed old man nodded in agreement and sighed. "This sentence is really very reasonable." Suddenly, his body floated, and a hand reached out. Looking at his posture, he actually wanted to strangle Jiyu Xinwu. Jiyu Xinwu almost laughed out loud. Was this guy looking for death? To think that he would be able to use such a crude method. He had overestimated the strength of the person in front of him. He was only SOSO. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, it was followed by endless shock. Even the other two companions beside him were shocked to the point of insanity, because the three of them discovered at the same time that the moment the old man made his move, the air around them became dense and inseparable. The three of them couldn't move at all. They couldn't even blink their eyes. They could only watch as the broad right hand in front of them stretched out at an extremely slow speed. Then, it easily grabbed Jiyu Shin-woo's neck. Then, Jiyu Shin-woo was lifted up by that person. His feet were off the ground, and Jiyu Shin-woo was like a salted fish that had been dried up. The green-robed old man held Jiyu Shin-woo in one hand and sighed, "To be honest, I really don't want to rob you. So, I'll give you a chance. Give me the purple crystal jade essence. This old man won't rob you, but if someone is willing to give it to me, that's another matter." Jiyu Shin-woo glared with grief and indignation. His two legs kicked helplessly in the air. If not for the fact that he couldn't move and didn't dare to move, he would have spat out a mouthful of blood. "Isn't this robbing? Willing to give it to you? This." The level of shamelessness in these words was really at the peak of perfection. "Are you willing to give it to me? Why aren't you saying anything? Are you silently agreeing?" The green-robed old man asked amiably. As he spoke, he loosened his grip on the three of them. Jiyu Shin-woo's feet landed on the ground again. He gasped for air. That feeling of suffocation almost made him collapse. But the ferocity that had been cultivated for a long time was deeply ingrained. He opened his eyes wide and cursed, "Give it to you. Who do you think you are?" Before he could finish, the old man stretched out his hand again and easily grabbed his neck again. Then, pa 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 pa, a flurry of slapping sounds rang out one after another like a violent storm. Jiyu Shin-woo's head swayed back and forth with the slaps. It was very rhythmic and crisp. Then, the old man put him down. He used one hand to grab his neck and used a bit of force. Catcher. Jiyu Shin-woo suddenly realized that his entire face was facing backwards. His head had turned at least 180 degrees. Jiyu Shin-woo did something that most people in the world couldn't do. Because he could see his own back from the front. He could even clearly see his own butt. "Are you willing to give it to me now?" The green-robed old man said softly, "I'm a law-abiding person. I've never broken the law. I've never stolen or robbed." "Really?" Jiyu Shin-woo was about to cry. What was this situation? Why did he meet such a pervert? What kind of person was this? His head was still facing backwards. "Huh? My head has clearly been twisted to the back. Why am I still not dead?" "Don't worry. You won't die for now. Why would I casually kill people?" The green-robed old man said kindly, "Hey, I'm asking you a question. Hurry up and answer me. I'm old. My patience isn't good." Jiyu Shin-woo finally collapsed. I'll give it to you." The green-robed old man let out a sigh of relief. "Really? Are you sincere? Don't force yourself." Jiyu Shin-woo nodded. Really. Not forced at all. He was surprised to find that even though his head was twisted backwards, he could still nod. Holy shit, this was an indescribable miracle. "Ian, are you saying that you're willing to give it to me? Is it like this?" The green-robed old man said worriedly. "I don't want you to force yourself at all." "Really?" Jiyu Shin-woo cried. He had no choice but to cry when meeting this kind of person. "You restrained me and made me unable to move. First you beat me up and twisted my neck backwards. Then you said that you're not willing to force me. Why was this matter so strange? Boss, don't play with me like this. I'm willing to give it to you." "Really?" Jiyu Shin-woo said with tears. "Ari, since you're willing, why are you crying? Are you touched?" The green-robed old man said unhappily. "You're an adult now. You don't know how to do things at all. You don't even know how to smile." Jiyu Shin-woo quickly revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. "I'm really willing to give it to you. Your smile isn't up to standard. I mind it very much. I won't accept it." The green-robed old man said seriously. Jiyu Shin-woo really wanted to die. "You're here to rob me, but you still say, I won't accept it. It's like I'm rushing to give it to you." The old man said angrily, "You're making me feel very uncomfortable. It's like I'm forcing you. Hurry up and adjust yourself. Smile more amiably, more kindly, more warmly." There's no need to be warmly. What Jiyu Shin-woo wanted to do the most was to cry out loud. Under these circumstances, how could I be so fucking relaxed, warm, and kind? Do you want to fucking play me to death? Hey, I forgot. You're still facing backwards. The old man said lightly. Catcher. Jiyu Shin-woo's neck was twisted again. It actually faced forwards and returned to its original position. No, it didn't return to its original position. Because when he twisted it, it was twisted to the right. Now that he twisted it back, it was still twisted to the right. In other words, Jiyu Shin-woo's neck was completely twisted, a full 310 degrees. And then it returned to its original position. Yes, it was the position, not the position. Right now, Jiyu Shin-woo's neck was in the shape of a fried dough twist. It also looked like a fried dough stick. Hurry up and smile like I said. Then express your sincerity and willingness to give it to me. Don't waste my time. Do you think everyone is as idle as you? Hurry up. The green-robed old man scolded unhappily. Jiyu Shin-woo closed his eyes and resisted the urge to cry out loud in his heart. He forced himself to gather his emotions, and then his swollen face revealed a flattering smile like a dog. Senior, this purple crystal jade essence, I'm giving it to you with all my sincerity. It's just a small token of my appreciation. I hope Senior won't dislike it. The green-robed old man said angrily, Why aren't you willing? Did I force you? Say it again and add the words willing. I'm not robbing you. Jiyu Shin-woo had already completely collapsed. He put on a flattering smile again and nodded. Senior, this purple crystal jade essence is something I'm willing to give to you. Yes, that's more like it. The green-robed old man took the purple crystal jade essence from Jiyu Shin-woo's hands with satisfaction. He turned around and was about to leave when he turned back. Right, do you think I'm bullying you? Jiyu Shin-woo shed tears. No. Absolutely not. Well, then I didn't force you, right? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Chapter 2073. That's good. There are still a lot of good people in this world. The old man in green sighed, I just came out for a stroll, and someone was willing to give me a piece of purple crystal jade essence. This young man has a bright future. Jiyu Shin-woo really wanted to spit on this shameless person's face. Just came out for a stroll? Willing to give it to you? There are so many good people, why didn't anyone give it to me? Jiyu Shin-woo was crying. The old man turned around and left. Senior. Jiyu Shin-woo was anxious and hurriedly shouted. What? The old man in green turned around and frowned. My neck. Jiyu Shin-woo pointed at his twisted neck, tears flowing down. My neck was twisted. You actually want to leave without letting me recover? What's wrong with your neck? The old man in green looked at him in surprise. This kind of twisted neck is hard to get even if other people want it. What's wrong with you? Are you blaming your father for not giving birth to you? No, no, no. Jiyu Shin-woo knelt down. Please have mercy on me, senior. There's really no other way. The old man in green flashed. Pa. A crisp sound rang out. Brother who was on the roof could bet that this sound would definitely spread through the entire city and reach 10 miles away. A quick and sharp slap landed on Jiyu Shin-woo's face. This slap was aimed to the left. Jiyu Shin-woo's head was flung out like a ball on a string. At this moment, his neck actually curled up, as if it had infinite elasticity. It lengthened in a straight line, bringing his head in a circle in the air before it fell back to its original position with a click. However, the old man in green had already disappeared. At this moment, Jiyu Shin-woo finally let out a heart-wrenching scream. No matter if he was beaten or twisted, he didn't feel any pain during the whole process. Until now, all the accumulated pain suddenly exploded out. Tears flowed down his face, and he was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. However, it had to be said that Jiyu Shin-woo's neck was originally about the same as a normal person's, but after this incident, it directly turned into a giraffe. It actually increased his height by half a foot. A sigh came from the sky. At such an age, she actually grew. Puberty is really late. She developed really late. Jiyu Shin-woo let out a heart-wrenching scream. It was so painful, the two masters beside him didn't dare to make a sound. They carried Jiyu Shin-woo on their backs and disappeared. Jiyu Shin-woo was extremely sad. Until now, he still thought that the other party was here to rob him. But he had never thought that he would encounter such misfortune just because he had offended Chu Yang, brother whose eyes twitched as he watched from the rooftop. This old man is really strong. It was simply too strong. Even if brother whose cultivation was fully restored, he would not be able to withstand one of his hands. Wasn't this a little too high? But who was this old man? No one would know about this. Since Jiyu Shin-woo had already been taught a lesson, brother who didn't want to take any more risks. Just as he was about to turn around and go back, he suddenly let out a meow and widened his eyes. The purple crystal jade essence that had clearly been taken away by the old man had been placed behind his butt at some point, emitting a sparkling purple light. This old man had tormented the purple crystal jade essence that people had willingly given out, but he didn't want it. He threw it behind his butt. What was going on? Brother whose eyes widened. He felt even more confused. No matter who this old man was, it seemed that his real goal was only to teach Jiyu Shin-woo a lesson. He didn't want the purple crystal jade essence. In addition, this old man had already discovered him and knew that he had come for the purple crystal energy. So he placed the purple crystal jade essence beside him, brother who was confused for a while before shaking his head. No matter who it is, this purple crystal jade essence is good stuff. Looking at the purple crystal jade essence in front of him, brother who was really hesitant. Should he give it back to Chu Yang? Or should he just stuff it into his own pocket? Temph, he had already sold it. Now someone else gave it to me. Isn't that the same as me dropping it? Thinking this, brother who felt relaxed and happy. He opened his mouth with a clear conscience. Wow. 4 claws hugged the purple crystal jade essence. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A cloud of mist rose up. In the next moment, the entire purple crystal jade essence had disappeared, leaving behind only a grey powder. Brother who wiped his mouth and disappeared with satisfaction. After it disappeared, the old man in green suddenly appeared in the air and landed where brother who was. He frowned and thought for a while. What kind of spirit beast is this? How come I have never seen it before? It's really interesting. My original intention was to let this guy take the purple crystal jade essence back, but this guy actually ate it. Brother who had completely misunderstood the old man's intentions. The old man had snatched it back to give it back to Chu Yang. After all, Jiyu Shin-woo had been forced to buy it. The old man didn't want to take advantage of it. Since this little cat had followed Chu Yang, he would let it take it back. But he didn't expect that brother who would treat it as an ownerless item and eat it at lightning speed, in the auction hall. Hai Lianbo was in a dilemma. Since he introduced it, there shouldn't be any problem with this transaction. We won't ask any more. There must be a reason for General Yang's actions. Hai Xiaobo was a little embarrassed. After asking so many questions, he ended up asking about the authorities. It was as if he had used all his strength to punch a mountain that could not be shaken. The authorities of the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms had always been wary of such things. At this point, Chu Yang heaved a sigh of relief. They had won the battle. As long as these two people believed it, it meant that everyone believed it. And, from now on, no one would dare to find trouble with this auction hall. Well, at least for the time being. It was no wonder that Chu Yang was so careful and cautious. It was really an empty shell now. He really didn't have any confidence. Yes, thank you, Divine Dr. Chu, for telling us frankly and resolving our doubts. It's just that Shuezian and I have another matter to discuss with you. Hai Bo heaved a sigh of relief. In addition to recovering his previous amiability, there was more caution in his tone. Originally, he thought that he just had to mention this matter. If Chu Yang didn't know what was good for him and didn't agree, then he could just take him away by force. But now, it seemed that it was impossible to take him away by force. Not to mention other things, If Yang Rushan knew that Hai Lianbo used force on his savior, he definitely wouldn't let him go easily. Yang Rushan represented the official power behind him. Even if it was just Yang Rushan's influence, even Hai Lianbo had to think twice. He might not dare to provoke them. The most important thing was that it was really not worth it to provoke such a power. Chu Yang said, "Elder, you're too polite. May I know what you want to discuss? Please say it. As long as it's within my ability, I won't let you down." Well, the second battle had begun. A big fish was about to take the bait. Chu Yang's words were respectful and his face was gentle. But in his heart, he felt like a fisherman who saw a big fish swallowing the bait. "I'll kill you." Hai Lianbo pondered for a while and decided to be honest. He said in a low voice, "During the auction, there were 2 young men in white who went up the stage with swords. I want to accept those 2 young men as my younger brothers. I wonder if Divine Dr. Chu is willing to part with them." Chu Yang's eyes instantly lit up. He said, "Accept them as your younger brothers? Does Senior mean to take the 2 of them into the Soaring Firmament sect?" Yes, that's right." Hai Lianbo was a little surprised. Why is this Divine Dr. Chu so excited? But, no matter what, it doesn't seem like he's unwilling. Great Elder Hai was worried about personal gains and losses at this moment. He was afraid that Chu Yang would reject him, which would put him in a dilemma and make him unable to choose. Chu Yang's face was full of excitement. He chuckled and said, "This. Old Hai, since you've taken a fancy to them, it's naturally their good fortune that you've taken a fancy to them. It's just that, since you're going to accept disciples, then there's no harm in accepting a few more, right?" Hai Lianbo was stunned and said subconsciously, "Yes, it's okay. But their aptitudes must be okay. If they're too bad." He thought, "What's wrong with this guy? Why can't I see what he's going to do? What's going on? Haha, that's good. That's great." Chu Yang said fervently, "Elder Hai, my aptitudes are okay, right? Can I also be accepted as your disciple?" "You?" Hai Lianbo was stunned by Chu Yang's sudden self-recommendation. He never thought that Chu Yang would suddenly say such a thing. Although he had some understanding of Chu Yang's background and recent experiences, he didn't have any direct impression of Chu Yang's strength and aptitudes. Until now, he still didn't check it. He had carefully checked his aptitudes. Elder Hai took a casual glance and saw that there wasn't much spiritual energy gathered around Great Divine Dr. Chu. He roughly judged that this person's aptitudes were also limited. If it was in normal times, he would directly refuse. But now that he had a request, he couldn't directly refuse. He frowned and said, "It's our sect's honor that Divine Dr. Chu thinks so highly of us. Divine Dr. Chu, please extend your hand. Let me see if your aptitudes are suitable." He thought, if it's okay, it's also not bad to accept Lingxiao clan. At least I can bring along 2 more geniuses. This deal isn't a loss. Even if it's a bit rubbish, I'll accept it. At least this Divine Dr. Chu is Yang Rushan's savior. He's very useful. Not to mention that he has good medical skills. Yes, he specializes in curing diseases. Chu Yang stretched out his hand happily. "Elder Hai, you're good looking, right? When I was down there, many people said that I'm a genius among geniuses. My cultivation speed is amazingly fast. If you accept me into Lingxiao clan, I'll definitely be able to bring Lingxiao clan to greater heights." Before he finished his words, he saw that Hai Lianbo, who was pressing on his wrist, had a change of expression. Chapter 2074. Hai Xiaobo was still feeling Chu Yang's pulse with one hand. Without any warning, his eyes popped out. If not for his eye sockets, his eyeballs would have definitely flown out. His mouth also flattened without a care for his image. The muscles on his face twitched so much that even his nose tilted to one side. It was obvious that he had received a huge shock. Beside him, Shuezian frowned and thought, "Eh? Could it be that Chu Yang's aptitude is so strong that it defies the natural order? Even Hai Xiaobo is so shocked. If that's the case, his aptitude is definitely not inferior to Mo Qing Wu's. If that's the case, how can I let the Soaring Firmament faction take advantage of him? Can't my dreamlike veranda accept a disciple? But, Why can't I see it? Why can't there be any signs of gathering spiritual energy? Could it be that it's the kind of hidden potential that can only be determined by taking the pulse? It must be so. Otherwise, Hai Xiaobo wouldn't be so shocked. Thinking of this, Shuexian waved her snow-white sleeves. Her slender hand also touched Chu Yang's pulse. She used her martial energy to take a look. Immediately, Shuexian's delicate body trembled. Her pair of bright phoenix eyes also opened wide. Her small mouth also opened wide and couldn't close. That way, there wasn't much difference between him and Great Elder Hai. Shocking, truly shocking. It was really too shocking. Chu Yang said proudly, "How is it? Shocking, right? My aptitude has shocked you, right? With my aptitude, no matter if I enter the dreamlike secular pavilion or the high firmament gate, I will definitely be the core disciple. I will be heavily nurtured. Let me tell you one more thing. My cultivation speed is extremely fast. I can definitely reach the highest level in the shortest amount of time. Really, this is not boasting." Hai Xiaobo and Shuexian stared blankly at someone's mouth opening and closing. They just couldn't understand what they were feeling in their hearts. His trash to such an extent. Trash to such an extent. And his still blowing his own trumpet, bragging as if his life depended on it. Fuck. The two cursed in their hearts at the same time. They couldn't take it anymore. They really couldn't take it anymore. With your aptitude, you actually want to become a core disciple? Important disciple? Important. If that's really the case, wouldn't it be the same as wasting money? Bah. You might as well paddle in the water and float in the water. At least you can make some splashes. With your aptitude, even if you use all the miraculous medicines in the entire Heaven Imperial Court on you, you will never become an expert in your lifetime. Accepting you as a disciple is a disgrace that has never been seen before and will never be seen in the future. The sea will dry up and the rocks will rot, the sky will fall and the earth will crack. I really didn't think. Hai Xiaobo let go of his hand and sighed. There is actually such a talent in this world. I really didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. Shuexian also retracted her hand and sighed. The wonders of the heavens' creation are indeed uncanny and uncanny. How is it? Chu Yang asked hopefully, "Masters, who do you intend to make me worship under? If you really find me pleasing to the eye, I wouldn't mind taking me as your disciple as well. But we mind." This was what both of them were thinking at the moment. Cough cough, little brother, with your aptitude, it's more suitable for you to become Old Hai's disciple. Our sect is a female-oriented sect after all. Accepting you as our disciple will only delay your talent, Shuexian said hurriedly. At this juncture, she couldn't back down. If these words were heard by others, they might be shocked to the core. The dignified dreamlike veranda, the most proud and arrogant dreamlike veranda, actually admitted that it was inferior to a certain sect. However, at this moment, it was already a critical moment for him to decide whether he would die or not. Shuexian didn't even blink and pushed the soaring cloud faction out. No, no, no. Hai Mingbo kept shaking his head. Seeing that Shuexian didn't care about the code of brotherhood, he was so anxious that sweat started to appear on his forehead. With my little cultivation base, how can I be Brother Chu's master? Such a great talent, only a senior like Shuexian is qualified to teach him. In the cultivation world, the one who reaches the top is the most important. The most important thing is cultivation base. Male or female, it doesn't matter. It's not that I don't want to, but I'm just afraid that I will delay Brother Chu's future. They didn't expect Great Elder Hai to be so shameless. Although his cultivation wasn't as good as Shuexian's, they were of the same generation. In order to get rid of someone, he directly defined Shuexian as a senior. This sacrifice was really big. At this point, both of them looked at each other fiercely. At the same time, they cursed in their hearts. This bastard really doesn't care about loyalty. Then, Chu Yang was full of hope as he said, "Who should I follow? This choice is too difficult. This is a heaven-sent opportunity, but it gave me two choices. It's too difficult for me to follow my brother's love and lose my sister-in-law's. It's too difficult for you." Both of them lowered their heads in pain. "Follow who? No matter who you fucking follow, you're destined to be a super useless snack. Not to mention giving you cultivation resources, even giving you a mouthful of food would be a super waste. That's a crime. A crime against the clan, a crime against cultivation. Xuezian had completely given up on him. She heard from Mo Qingwu that this Chu Yang's cultivation speed was super fast. Sigh, if it's such a super fast cultivation method, he's indeed a genius. Without a doubt, he's a super genius who's second to none among the trash. He's worthy of the title of a peerless king among the trash. Cough cough cough. Hai Lianbo coughed for a long time before he said, this, that. Divine Dr. Chu. You, cough cough cough. Your aptitude is a bit special. Special? Chu Yang said in surprise, is it super good? It must be. Hai Lianbo looked up at the sky with grief and indignation. He took 3 deep breaths and said, yes, but it's super good. But we really can't accept you as a disciple. It's because your aptitude is too good. I'm afraid that you'll be held back if you follow us. I've thought about it. Not only me, even Xuezian isn't qualified to teach you. Hai Lianbo's tone was very respectful. He even used you. He couldn't be disrespectful. Fuck, Hai Lianbo scolded angrily in his heart. It's really a lucky day for us to meet such a genius that only appears once in 30 million years. How can I not be respectful? If I don't respect him, what if he sticks to me? This is a big matter that will bring shame to the clan and the entire Lingxiao clan. What's a personal honor? Fuck, such a physique is simply a super character that has never appeared in the history of mankind. When I meet such a person, I can't help but admire the wonders of God's creation from the bottom of my heart. Hold me back. Chu Yang said thoughtfully, it seems that my aptitude is really amazing. Yes, it's unprecedented since ancient times. You're definitely the only one in the world. Hai Lianbo's words were absolutely from the bottom of his heart. Ha ha ha. Chu Yang laughed heartily from the bottom of his heart. He laughed heartily. Xuezian's mouth couldn't help but twitch, then twitch again, then twitch again. Finally, she couldn't help but turn her head away. It was really unbearable. Normally, Elder Hai's words of not qualified would make Xuezian turn hostile. But now, it was better to take a break. She even had to accept Elder Hai's kindness. As long as she could get rid of this super trouble, so what if she wasn't qualified? But in other words, to successfully train such a genius, it seemed that she really wasn't qualified enough. It wasn't slander. Chu Yang, who enjoyed the supreme evaluation, made a decision. Come, let Jin Feng and Yin Feng in. Oh, let them all come in. There's no room for selection with only 2. Oh right, remember to let a few girls come in too. Dreamlike Hong Chen Pavilion focuses on female disciples. As he spoke, he turned to Xuezian and Hai Lianbo and said, to be honest, I have a lot of such kids here. If you like them, you can choose a few more. It's just that 2 of them are really not presentable. He sighed and said, I only gave you 2 people because you came once. I, Chu Yang, am also a person who wants face. I really can't afford to lose face like this. Hai Lianbo and Xuezian's mouth twitched. You're fucking bullshit. It's already a great fortune for a sect to meet one of such geniuses. This time, we met 2 of them at once. This is already unprecedented. You actually want us to choose a few more? Do you think they're cabbages? If it weren't for those 2 kids, if it weren't for your good luck of having Yang Russian as your backer, just based on your trashy physique and dirtying our eyes, you would have died 10 times over. You can't even afford to lose face like this. With your aptitude, you still want face? Face. I'm really speechless. I'm really speechless. But his mouth was full of agreement. Of course. If there's someone with suitable aptitude, we naturally can't ask for anything more. It's good to have a few more choices. As he spoke, there was a commotion outside. Then, someone said, Clan Master, they're here. Shall we let them in? Yes, all of them come in, Chu Yang said arrogantly. Then, light footsteps were heard. 5 white-robed young men and 5 white-robed young girls walked in one by one with their heads lowered. They were all about 11 or 12 years old. The oldest one was no more than 13 or 14 years old. Although it could not be said that all of them were very handsome, at the very least, their small faces were rosy and healthy. As the 10 of them walked in, Shuexian and Hai Lianbo could clearly feel that the spiritual energy in the living room was slowly becoming active. Just this spiritual energy fluctuation alone was enough to prove that there were quite a few of these kids who seemed to be extraordinary. Yes, could there really be a few of them with great potential? Both of them put down their teacups and turned to look. Chu Yang introduced attentively. "Seniors, please take a look at my 5 little brothers. What do you think of their aptitudes? I think their aptitudes should be quite good. Even if they're not as good as me, they should be the best." Hai Lianbo and Shuexian didn't say anything. Because they were shocked again. Because they were already so shocked that they couldn't say a word. They were almost suspecting that they were dreaming. No. Even if they were dreaming, there definitely wouldn't be such a beautiful dream. This dream was too beautiful. It was too unreal. Chapter 2075. If that was all, Chu Yang's impression of this person would probably be that he valued him very much. However, this person's aura, composure, and the special feeling that everything was under his control were actually similar to the feeling that Mo Tianji gave him. In fact, it was even better than that. This person was definitely not to be trifled with. At least, not in the short term. Chu Yang made this judgment in his heart and secretly became somewhat vigilant. Opponent. Beside the white-robed man stood a black-robed young man. This young man in black was also not very old, looking about 27 or 28 years old. He was dressed in black as ink. His eyebrows were sharp and his eyes were bright. The contours of his face were as if they were carved by a knife. The lines were so rigid that it gave people a feeling of uncanny workmanship. This face seemed to be made with a mold. It did not look natural at all. But it was indeed natural. Although thin and weak, it gave people the feeling of a tough man. This person also had his hands behind his back. A pair of cold eyes looked at Chu Yang. Those 2 cold eyes fell on Chu Yang's face. It actually made Chu Yang feel as if there were actual needles pricking him. His face faintly hurt. This person gave him the feeling that he was a combination of Jiyu Duxing and Dong Wushang. Sharp and heavy. It was just that the feeling that Jiyu Duxing and Dong Wushang gave him was that of someone who could entrust their lives to each other. But the feeling that the person in front of him gave him was a kind of awkwardness and discomfort from the bottom of his heart. Although he was smiling at this moment, and it was the kind of smile that came from the bottom of his heart. But Chu Yang could still feel waves of coldness in his heart. And a kind of coldness that was like a kind of killing intent. This person, whether now or in the future, would not be on the same path as him. This person was quite scary. Chu Yang also came to a conclusion about the second person in his heart, opponent. The last person was a young man dressed in purple. Purple had always been a color that symbolized natural nobility. But not everyone could wear purple clothes. However, when this person wore it, it complemented each other perfectly, as if it was a natural combination. This person's eyebrows were a little thick. His nose was not very straight either. Even his skin was a little dark. But he gave people the feeling that he was a rich and powerful man who looked down on the world with a smile. Extremely carefree and at ease. It was as if there was nothing in the world that he couldn't do. There was nothing that he couldn't do. At this moment, there was a smile in his eyes as he looked at Chu Yang quietly. This person gave Chu Yang the feeling that he was the most dangerous of the 3. He felt as if he was facing Meng Luo and Oyu Du Xiao at the same time in the 3rd heaven. From this third person, Chu Yang made a final conclusion, opponent. He was an extremely threatening opponent. This kind of situation where he could determine whether he was an enemy or a friend was not rare in Chu Yang's life. Chu Yang wasn't a jealous person. But, he had an incomprehensible intuition about the opponents he was about to face. He couldn't explain it in words. An opponent was an opponent. An enemy is an enemy. A friend is a friend. Brothers are brothers. There was nothing to explain. However, Chu Yang himself might not have realized it. In this world, there were not many people who were qualified to be recognized by him as his opponent, Diwu Qingru of the lower three heavens was one of them. Oyu Du Xiao and the others of the third heaven could barely be regarded as his opponents. But their level was too low. The Dharma King of the upper three heavens was also the former think tank of the calamity, Diwu Chouchang. And Chu Yang recognized him very much. Apart from him, Chu Yang didn't have any other opponent. Senior brother Shi Qianshan and the extremely powerful extraterrestrial demon might have the strength to threaten Chu Yang's life. But they weren't qualified to be Chu Yang's opponent. Being regarded as Chu Yang's opponent was a great honor for a person. That was because he wasn't inferior to anyone. Chu Yang was so outstanding that even he himself hadn't realized it. Unfortunately, Chu Yang himself hadn't realized this fact that was worthy of being proud of. So, it was needless to say about these three people standing opposite him. But these three special people had appeared in front of him. And they had appeared here. The real opponents that Chu Yang had to face in the Heavenly Imperial Court had finally appeared. The first wave. These three people were standing on this street. They blended in perfectly with everything around them. But they were also out of place at the same time. It seemed as if they were lotus blooming in the mud without being stained. They also seemed as if the bright moon in the sky had arrived in the world, harmonious and detached. While Chu Yang was sizing up these three people were sizing him up as well. This young man in black walked over calmly from the other side. His movement speed wasn't very fast. But the distance between each step was perfectly balanced. In the eyes of these three people, Chu Yang seemed to leave a clear mark on the ground with each step he took. When he walked over step by step, although there weren't any marks left on the ground, in the eyes of these three people, there were two neat rows of footsteps. The direction and distance of the first step and the second step were exactly the same. There wasn't even a millimeter of difference. The direction and distance of the heels of this step and the second step were exactly the same. The direction of the toes of the feet were exactly the same. The distance covered by each step was exactly the same. There wasn't even a millimeter of difference. He walked over just like that. But he was like the most precise machine. There wasn't any deviation at all. Not even the slightest deviation would appear. The gazes of these three people gradually became cautious, serious, and solemn. From these neat footsteps, the three people felt a sense of pressure from their hearts at the same time. It was a kind of pressure that could suffocate the heart and make it stop beating, but none of the three people said it out loud. They continued to observe Chu Yang. The material of his black clothes was very unique. It didn't look like the traditional clothes of the Heaven Imperial Court. But it was very fitting. Yes, there seemed to be a slight protrusion at the hem of his black robe. It didn't look like there was a weapon hidden there. But there was definitely something else. This person's eyes were very clear and pure. But the divine light in his eyes was constant. The corners of his mouth curved slightly, as if he was smiling at any time. But only those who were completely clear about this face would know. A person with such a face, if they were to become enemies with him, how vicious would his attacks be? He would never give his enemy any chance. His eyes were very bright. The black and white of his eyes were very distinct. There wasn't even a trace of blood in them. This kind of person kept himself in the most complete state of consciousness at all times. His feet were moving. His arms were also moving. From every strand of his hair to the soles of his feet, his entire body was in a natural harmony. He didn't need to be on guard intentionally. But his most normal posture was already the most perfect defense. He could adjust all the functions of his body to the most suitable position at any time, any place, in any kind of unexpected situation. Whether it was attacking or defending, he could do it as he pleased. Although his every move seemed to be careless, in fact, it was a kind of strong confidence that only people with extreme confidence could have. It was the kind of strong confidence that everything is under my control. This kind of person had always been the most difficult to deal with. At the same time, the three people opposite him came to such a conclusion about Chu Yang. These observations and discoveries about each other sounded very long. But, in fact, this process was very short. Almost at the moment when the two sides met, everyone had an evaluation of each other. As highly intelligent people, and also the top experts in each other's fields, everyone clearly believed in one thing. The accuracy of determining friend or foe at first sight was absolutely as high as 10%. Everyone was a confident person. They firmly believed that they wouldn't make a mistake. If their first impression was wrong, it would be tantamount to a disaster for such people. Because they were very stubborn. They stubbornly believed in their first impression. Chu Yang stopped at a distance of 20 feet away from the three people. This distance was very subtle. If he were to ask a question from 30 feet away, there would be a sense of distance. But, at this distance, there was no distinction between friend and foe. It was enough to go up and be intimate. But, it seemed that it was also enough to go up and kill. It was enough for ordinary people. The three people revealed an inexplicable smile in their eyes. They were very clear that the person in front of them had given the choice to the three of them whether they were friend or foe. But, such a choice was somewhat uncomfortable for the three of them. They usually gave this choice to others. Since when was it someone else's turn to make a choice? Let you make a choice, or let me make a choice. These were two completely different things. One was active, and the other was passive. Obviously, these people weren't used to being passive. But now, they were in front of Chu Yang's house. Chu Yang was acting as the master. The three of them had no choice but to accept it. Otherwise, the following topic wouldn't be able to be discussed. Just as the three of them were unwilling, but they had no choice but to open their mouths first, a warm and genial smile suddenly appeared on Chu Yang's face. At this moment, under the influence of his smile, the gate of the Chu clan seemed to have suddenly turned into spring. It was intoxicating. May I ask who the three of you are? Ha ha. Chu Yang's eyes seemed to be smiling. The three of you have brought light to my humble home. Could it be that you've been waiting for me? I'm flattered, I'm really flattered. The unbelievably handsome young man smiled, revealing a row of snow-white teeth. It actually made people's eyes light up. Well, if your name is Chu Yang, then, the three of us brothers are here to look for you. Chu Yang laughed and said cordially, "It's an honor to have the three of you come in person. It's really an honor." As he said, he winked ambiguously and mischievously and said, "But, I think that it's better for us to talk inside." As he said, he winked again and said, "Look, with three handsome men like you standing in front of my house, many young ladies and young wives can't walk. I'm afraid that there will be many more bachelors in our purple cloud city. It's really a sin." Chapter 2076. He gently hugged Wu Qianqian's naked body in his arms. He thought for a while and didn't want to put her down. Instead, he quickly took off his clothes as well. At this moment, the two of them were completely naked. Chu Yang held Wu Qianqian in his arms and slowly activated the power of his life dantian. A surging life force slowly appeared and lingered around the two of them. Then, Chu Yang put the super heavy pill in his mouth and placed it against Wu Qianqian's small mouth. He gently used the tip of his tongue to pry open Wu Qianqian's unconscious teeth and sent the super heavy pill into her mouth. The super heavy pill melted in Wu Qianqian's mouth after it was no longer wrapped by Chu Yang's heaven-splitting divine technique. It turned into a warm current and flowed into Wu Qianqian's body. The super heavy pill melted in her mouth and saved her a lot of trouble. At the same time, Chu Yang didn't move his lips away because the majestic vitality was flowing into Wu Qianqian's mouth from his mouth. Their bodies were in close contact. Chu Yang's vitality and spiritual power were madly pouring into Wu Qianqian's body. With a slight sound, Wu Qianqian's and Chu Yang's hair flew up due to the surging power of vitality. They floated in the air. A faint layer of redness gradually appeared on Wu Qianqian's snow-white body. The enormous medicinal efficacies rapidly passed through her body in an unstoppable manner. They broke open the stagnant meridians in her body, and almost solidified them. This process would undoubtedly be extremely painful if Wu Qianqian was awake. However, she wasn't awake at the moment. She didn't even have the slightest consciousness. In a sense, this could be considered a blessing in disguise. Now, she could only passively let the meridians in her body continuously receive the impact. With the powerful impact of the enormous medicinal power, Her meridians were constantly broken but were constantly being reformed by the medicinal power. This cycle repeated. This violent process didn't stop because of the serious blockage of her meridians. Although the process was slow, it progressed layer by layer. There was no sign of slowing down. Chu Yang's divine sense followed the continuous progressive and reforming process in Wu Qianqian's body. He saw cold sweat all over his body. If a person was conscious, or even in a deep coma, such pain would be unbearable. However, as long as the person was conscious, they would definitely not be able to endure it. The unconscious Wu Qianqian was lying quietly in Chu Yang's arms. Her face still had that kind of contented and melancholy smile on it. It was a peaceful and concerned smile. Finally, this long and painful process came to an end. All the meridians in Wu Qianqian's body had been completely connected. Or, it should be said that her meridians had been completely reorganized. Wu Qianqian's meridians were now like an incomparably smooth road with the help of the enormous medicinal efficacy and the nourishment of Chu Yang's vitality energy. It could be said that since the beginning of human history, there was absolutely no one whose meridians were smoother than Wu Qianqian's. Even Mo Qingwu and Chu Yang, who had cultivated the heaven-overlapping divine technique and had many fortuitous encounters, could not compare in this aspect. However, Wu Qianqian's body was still deathly still. There was no sign of life. It could be faintly felt that the vitality energy and the medicinal efficacy were surging in her meridians. And, there was also a thick black death energy entwined with them. The death energy was still struggling unceasingly. It was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws to counterattack. It was doing everything it could to resist. At this moment, the life energy and the medicinal efficacy met in the dantian. Chu Yang's enormous spiritual power fiercely poured in. Wu Qianqian's originally expressionless face suddenly flushed. Then, she opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood that should have been bright red was now reddish-black. It was mixed with blackish-purple blood clots. Chu Yang sensitively felt that Wu Qianqian was close to his chest. He could hear a soft heartbeat. This was the moment. Chu Yang waved his hand and put the jade-like half of the resurrection grass that he had prepared earlier into Wu Qianqian's mouth. Then, Chu Yang used his own mouth to tightly press against Wu Qianqian's sandalwood mouth. A pure spiritual power completely blocked the path of the medicinal efficacy of the resurrection grass. Then, it rushed down along her meridians. At the same time, the other half of the grass turned into the purest spiritual power in Chu Yang's palm. Then, Chu Yang patted Wu Qianqian's dantian and locked it there. Not a single drop of it leaked out. Wu Qianqian's snow-white and tender body suddenly showed a strange situation. Starting from her neck, the original snow-white color turned into a sad pink color. Moreover, the area was rapidly expanding. A bright pink color quickly occupied the original snow-white territory and kept spreading downwards. Starting from Wu Qianqian's dantian, her entire lower body and her 2 legs also turned pink the moment the other half of the spiritual power entered her body. Then, it spread upwards in the opposite direction. One on the top and one on the bottom, they moved side by side and gradually converged. Looking at the speed of the 2 sides, it was completely foreseeable that these 2 forces of pink would converge at Wu Qianqian's heart. As long as they successfully converged, it would be the time of great success. Chu Yang was completely focused. He did not dare to slack off in the slightest. The spiritual power in his life force dantian poured out in torrents as if it did not care about its own life. Inside the death energy dantian, other than absorbing the death energy from Wu Qianqian's body bit by bit, it continued to transform. It transformed the death energy in its body into life force energy and injected it back into the life force dantian. It tried its best to prolong the duration of the output from the life force dantian. The 2 patches of pink were slowly and methodically advancing. And the heartbeat in Wu Qianqian's chest gradually changed from 1 beat after a long time to a slow and continuous beat. Although the number of beats was still much less than that of a normal person, the characteristics of life had already begun to recover in her body. Now, it was the most crucial moment. Success or failure depended on this one move. The death energy in Wu Qianqian's meridians, under the effect of the strong medicinal power and the life spiritual power, had quickly condensed to one place. It was on the verge of being expelled. As long as this death energy was expelled, Wu Qianqian's resurrection would not be hindered. However, at this moment, Chu Yang's mind suddenly recalled a few sentences. Mo Qing Wu of the clouds. The path of 3 lives can mend the sky. Yin and Yang need to cherish the beauty. Chu Yang, who was completely focused and did not dare to be careless, could not help but be in a trance at this moment. Chu Yang had already considered and analyzed these few sentences for a long time. In fact, this was also one of the reasons why he had to bring Tai Butian up regardless of the consequences. Mo Qing Wu of the clouds. This sentence had already confirmed one meaning. Mo Qing Wu had already come to the clouds. But what was the other meaning? Mo Qing Wu. Mo Qing Wu. Was this advising him to be cautious? Did it mean not to be young and frivolous? Or was it warning Mo Qing Wu not to do anything rashly? Yin and Yang need to cherish the beauty. This sentence had already confirmed that Wu Qianqian had almost been separated by Yin and Yang because of Chu Yang. Yes, it was not just a little, it was already separated by Yin and Yang. Yin and Yang need to cherish the beauty. This prophecy, or disaster, could be said to have already passed. But what did the sentence "the path of 3 lives can mend the sky" mean? The reason why Chu Yang brought Tai Butian with him was to avoid this prophecy. If one of them was in the heavenly imperial court and the other was in the heavenly realm, it would be too late for Chu Yang to do anything about it. At least for now, Chu Yang had no way of dealing with it. If I want to mend the sky, why should I go to the path of 3 lives? Chu Yang definitely did not want to go through the pain of the path of 3 lives. He would definitely not let Tai Butian go through it. That was really too painful. With Mo Qing Wu's past and present life, and Wu Qianqian's separation of Yin and Yang, this was already enough. I really don't need any reincarnation of the path of 3 lives. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. Could it be that something is going to happen to Tai Butian after all? Some kind of unforeseen event? Chu Yang frowned. If that's the case, I still have to be more vigilant during this period of time. My current strength is still not enough. If we reach the heavenly realm, maybe we won't have to worry about anything anymore. But now, Chu Yang was thinking in his heart. Coincidentally, at this moment, Wu Qianqian, who was hugging her chest, suddenly shook violently. Then, an unusually strong aura of death suddenly emanated from her body. At the same time, some greenish-purple fog slowly seeped out from her skin. Chu Yang concentrated, not daring to be careless, and used all his strength to expel this aura of death. In order to avoid any possibility of the aura of death flowing back, he simply used the multiplication heaven's divine technique to absorb all the aura of death into his dantian. After circulating the technique, he converted all the aura of death into vitality and re-injected it into Wu Qianqian's body. This originally came from Wu Qianqian's body, and could be said to be the elements of Wu Qianqian's body. Although the aura of death formed by these elements would only bring about negative effects, it still came from Wu Qianqian. At this moment, after being converted by Chu Yang's multiplication heaven's divine technique, although the elements were different, the essence was not changed. Therefore, it was easy for it to merge with Wu Qianqian's body without any obstruction. Wu Qianqian's motionless body slowly trembled. The long eyelashes of her tightly closed eyes suddenly trembled, as if she was trying to open them with all her might. But she had some misgivings, or maybe it was because she didn't have the strength. Suddenly, Wu Qianqian let out a moan. Although this moan was weak, it was like the sound of nature to Chu Yang. The sword spirit, who had been standing outside worriedly, also heard this little movement. He finally let out a long sigh. My mother, it's finally done. Since this matter is over, I have to go back quickly. There's still a lot of aura of death waiting there. The sword spirit transmitted a thought to Chu Yang. Then, he immediately calculated and said anxiously, oh no. A whole day has passed. I don't know what's going on in the infinite boundless mountain now. Not good. Chapter 2077. Chu Yang didn't answer the sword spirit's question. That's because there was a huge surprise waiting for him. Everything else wasn't important. Wu Chen finally opened her eyes. She opened her eyes and saw Chu Yang's eyes. They were filled with an anxious expression. Her eyes were like those of a newborn. Chu Yang was instantly immersed in this pair of eyes in pleasant surprise. Wu Chen's eyes were wide open. It was as if she was in a dream. She looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. Her eyes were filled with love and disbelief. Her long eyelashes fluttered wildly. "I am not dreaming," Wu Chen said in a heavy voice. Chu Yang finally felt relieved. Wu Chen's voice was full of energy. She wasn't weaker than an ordinary person. She hadn't fully recovered. But she was much better. Of course, how can this be a dream? Chu Yang gazed at her. Their eyes were almost stuck together. They could clearly feel the heat of each other's breath as they spoke. Wu Chen looked at Chu Yang in a daze. Suddenly, the corners of her mouth curled up. It seemed as if she wanted to laugh. But she didn't succeed in the end. Instead, she opened her small mouth to cry. Then, tears silently filled her eyes and trickled down like broken pearls. Then, she started to sob silently. She was crying. But she still couldn't bear to close her eyes. She stubbornly stared at Chu Yang. She was afraid that the face she loved would disappear if she closed her eyes and opened them again. Chu Yang knew her feelings. So, he hugged her tightly. He also didn't want to let go. He was so moved. His heart was full of warmth and gratitude. Wu Chen had just woken up. She didn't notice that she wasn't wearing any clothes. She knew that Chu Yang had also completely ignored it. The two were facing each other in the most private way. Moreover, Chu Yang remembered the sword spirit's instructions. Wu Chen's body was suspended in the air. Her feet were off the ground. Her entire weight was hanging on Chu Yang's body. The two looked at each other. They were extremely happy. After a long while, Wu Chen's emotions calmed down a little. She looked at Chu Yang affectionately and asked, "Is this really true?" Her voice was still full of uncertainty. Being with her beloved in her long slumber was already the greatest consolation. However, she had lost too much, so Wu Chen did not dare to believe that everything in front of her was real. "Really? It's true." Chu Yang looked at her and nodded with certainty. Wu Chen suddenly covered her mouth with her hand and started crying. That pair of beautiful eyes was finally willing to close. However, due to the bitterness of the pleasant surprise, as well as the sourness of her eyes from not daring to close them for too long, more and more tears gushed out. In an instant, tears gushed out like a spring. "Thank God. Thank the earth," Wu Chen murmured and hugged Chu Yang tightly. She leaned her head against Chu Yang's chest and said softly, "Chu Yang, I once made up my mind." "What is it?" "When I was unconscious, I thought that if I could wake up one day, I would say something to you. Something that I wanted to say to you for a long time but did not have the courage to say." Wu Chen raised her head and looked at Chu Yang. She didn't even blink. She said seriously, "Chu Yang, Chen likes you." Chu Yang suddenly closed his eyes. He only felt that the softest part of his heart had been ruthlessly hit. It was full of sour and tender feelings. Scenes of the past quickly flashed through his mind. They were right in front of his eyes. It turned out that his beloved had already left an indelible mark in his heart. It was just that he had completely ignored it in the past. Heavenly Armament Pavilion, that black robe, that ferocious mask, and that black hair behind the mask, that unparalleled beauty. When she left, she gave him a big package. Inside it were black robes that Wu Chen had sewn together. He did not know how many there were. At the bottom of each black robe, there was a slight protrusion that did not attract attention. That was the heart of a young girl. There, on each black robe, there were a few words embroidered with hair. "Chu Yang, Chen likes you." The devastating beauty of the ninja sect turned into a black robe and a black robe. A cold heart and jade bones made a mask for the monarch. The long hair behind the gold mask fluttered in the wind and the eyes full of tenderness. Chu Yang seemed to see that day again. He slapped open the bottom of the black robe. There, The words made of hair quietly appeared on the stone floor. Chu Yang, Chen likes you. Scenes of the past flashed through his eyes. In an instant, Chu Yang really seemed to have gone through 3 lifetimes. Chu Yang suddenly opened his eyes. What he saw was Wu Chen's fervent eyes, with some uneasiness, fear, shyness, and a trace of sadness in the depths of her eyes. As if she had foreseen Chu Yang's rejection, Wu Chen's fervent eyes slowly dimmed. The light in her eyes slowly retracted. That kind of inferiority and self-pity, Senior Wu. I also like you. Chu Yang couldn't help but hug her tightly. I also like you, Senior Wu, Chen. Wu Chen's eyes widened in surprise. The sadness in the depths of her eyes suddenly turned into a completely overwhelmed surprise. She originally didn't have any hope. It was just that the great joy and sorrow after life and death made her state of mind a little unbalanced. She was afraid that she would lose him forever. But when she heard Chu Yang's reply, it was as if a bolt of lightning suddenly lit up her cloudy sky. It completely lit up her hazy sky. It turns out that it's not that I don't want it. It's not that I don't care. She trembled as she looked at Chu Yang. Suddenly, tears streamed down her face. She cried tears of joy and hugged him tightly. Chu Yang, thank you for liking me. Thank you for liking me. I'm so happy. I want to cry. Chu Yang's heart ached. He was agitated. This poor girl. Her life's wish was actually so humble. Her love was so real, so pure, so deep, but she was still so nervous. She had already given up all her love, and she had no regrets. She actually had to wholeheartedly thank her lover for saying that she liked him. Why did she have to do this? What kind of deep love was this? How can I, Chu Yang, be able to make her fall in love with me so wholeheartedly? Immediately, he was overjoyed. Just now, when she hugged him, her strength was surprisingly great. Could it be that her body had already completely recovered? Even his cultivation had been restored. Actually, Chu Yang had overlooked a very important point. When Wu Chantian was in a life-or-death situation, her cultivation was not considered too high. Not to mention the current Chu Yang, even the Chu Yang who had not ascended the heavenly imperial palace, the difference between the two was extremely huge. Even with Chu Yang's current cultivation, he was still shocked by Wu Chantian's strength. One could imagine how great Wu Chantian's strength was now. Chu Yang gently patted Wu Chen's smooth back and comforted her in a soft voice. Well, it's all over now. We're all fine now. Yes. Wu Chantian hid her beautiful face in his arms and nodded vigorously. Suddenly, she cried out in surprise, why is my body so? Then, she screamed again, I'm not wearing any clothes. Suddenly, she could not restrain her shyness. Why aren't you? This, you, me. Chu Yang also woke up at this time. He was somewhat embarrassed, and even had a strange feeling in his heart. In an instant, he actually had a reaction. A certain part of him was at daggers drawn, and was firmly pressed against Wu Chantian's flat lower abdomen. It was as if he was about to attack a city, and fight bravely. This is actually what happened. Chu Yang's mouth and tongue were dry as he explained the whole process. You'd better put me down first. How would this look? Wu Chantian was so embarrassed that her whole body was burning. It turned out that someone was still hugging her tightly. The two naked bodies were still tightly pressed against each other as before. It's all right. Well, you've just been treated. How would you have the strength to walk? Oh right, you haven't taken a bath yet. Chu Yang said shamelessly, let's go, I'll carry you to take a bath. Don't. I can walk by myself. Really, I can take a bath by myself. I have the strength. Wu Chantian shyly struggled with all her strength. If it was someone else, she would have been broken free. How would this look like someone who did not have the strength to walk? Don't move. I'm telling you, even if you have the strength, it's not enough. You can't move rashly now. What if your injuries relapse? I have the final say in this matter. Chu Yang's face was stern. He said in a very domineering manner, don't move. I'll take a bath for you. I've already bathed you 800 times before. What's wrong with that? The righteousness did not last for a moment. His heart was dirty and vulgar. Wu Qianqian struggled but could not break free. She did not know why, but her whole body was burning. She felt the strong body of the man in front of her tightly pressed against her. His muscles moved rhythmically. She could not help but feel weak all over. Chu Yang carried Wu Qianqian and walked to the large jade vat that had been prepared earlier. Inside the vat, there was already warm spring water. You, put me down. I'll take a bath by myself. Wu Qianqian's voice was like a mosquito. She was so shy that she closed her eyes and did not look again. It's all right. I'm already used to it. Did you think I was joking? I've already bathed you 800 times. Chu Yang laughed mischievously. Used to it? 800 times? Wu Qianqian did not understand. Well, during this period of time, you can't move. I'll come every 2 days to take a bath for you. Then I'll give you a massage. Then I'll change your clothes. Chu Yang said softly, I've already bathed your body many times. Even if it's not 800 times, it's at least 800 times. You've bathed many times. 800 times. 800 times. Wu Qianqian was so shy that she almost fainted. According to what he said, he had seen everything, and even touched it. Chapter 2078. The warm spring water wrapped around their bodies. Wu Qianqian closed her eyes tightly, not daring to look at the person in front of her. Since it's all ready, then, let's sigh. The next moment, she felt Chu Yang's warm hands roaming around her body, gently scrubbing her from head to toe, her neck, her shoulders, her soft breasts, her lower abdomen, her perky buttocks, her thighs. There was nothing that he did not touch. Chu Yang did not miss a single spot. His movements were gentle and skillful. Wu Qianqian only felt her heart beating wildly. For a moment, she felt a little dizzy. After a long while, she suddenly felt a surge of tenderness. Looking at Chu Yang's skillful movements, it was obvious that he had done it more than once, or even more than a dozen times. Could it be that he had done it more than 100 times? She thought about how she had been unconscious like a corpse, and how Chu Yang had taken care of her for 2 whole years. Chu Yang had been so meticulous and considerate. In this world, who else could be like Chu Yang, who had taken care of a living corpse for 2 whole years without the slightest bit of disdain? Wu Qianqian's heart was filled with an indescribable tenderness. She was also touched. Although she was still embarrassed, her heart had calmed down a lot. At this moment, she felt Chu Yang's hands suddenly stop. He had finished washing. Then, his hands slid to her chest, seemingly intentionally or unintentionally. Then, he gently held her breasts. This action was very different from the previous bathing. The feeling was completely different. Chu Yang's hands were not only holding her breasts, but they were also moving gently. Although Wu Qianqian closed her eyes, she could imagine that Chu Yang had played with her breasts until they were out of shape. A pair of warm lips pressed against her ear. Wu Qianqian's body suddenly trembled. She only felt her earlobe being held by those warm lips. In an instant, her whole body convulsed and trembled. She only heard Chu Yang softly say, "Senior Sister Wu, be my woman, okay?" Wu Qianqian suddenly hid her head in Chu Yang's bosom. She was trembling like a frightened quail. She could feel a strange feeling rising in her body. It was strange, but there was also a faint expectation. With a splash, Chu Yang stepped out of the bathtub with Wu Qianqian in his arms. His hands held Senior Martial Sister Wu's soft and supple buttocks. His chin gently lifted Wu Qianqian's small head and sucked on Wu Qianqian's red lips. Although Wu Qianqian loved a certain someone very much, she had never experienced such a fiery scene. She was just about to scream when she felt a soft tongue entering her mouth. In that instant, my soul flew out of my body and I no longer knew what day it was. When she woke up again, she didn't know when Chu Yang had placed her on the bed. Then, she felt Chu Yang leaning on her body and whispering in her ear, "Qian Qian." Wu Qianqian closed her eyes and blushed. Then, she nodded her head imperceptibly. At this moment, Tai Butian was calculating the strength of the Chu clan in her room so that she could make further plans. Since the three saber saints joined the Chu clan, the strength of the Chu clan had increased significantly. In addition, there was Duan Sungkong who was about to recover his strength. Something was fishy. Chu Yang, if such strength was placed in Purple Cloud City 2 months ago, it would have been enough to dominate. But now, it was far from enough to protect itself. The Miao clan can be a potential ally, but a single Miao clan is still not enough. Chu Yang is trying his best to find a way out for these children. Pushing out a sect is equivalent to gaining the friendship of this sect. This is also a potential network. It can't be underestimated. It needs to be managed carefully. But what's going on with this young leader? This time, I can clearly feel the undercurrent surging. It's very dangerous. Tai Butian frowned. Although this situation was almost unsolvable, Tai Butian and Chu Yang were the same. They had walked out from unsolvable situations, so they didn't care much. At least, compared to the time when they fought against Diwu Qingru in the lower three heavens, the current situation was much more confident. Well, now the dreamlike secular pavilion and the Lingxiao faction can be said to have no life and death threats. If we can push out another sect, preferably from another world, we can form a mutual restraint. Then it will be more foolproof. It's just that this matter still needs to wait for the right time. Just as she was thinking, she suddenly heard a knock on the door. Without raising her head, she said, "Come in." The door opened and Chu Yang walked in with a smile on his face. He looked very relaxed. "What's wrong? What are you so happy about?" Tai Butian frowned. "Well, I finally did something big today. Your Majesty, you should thank me. I let you and your husband reunite today." Chu Yang winked. "Husband and wife reunite? What do you mean?" Even though Tai Butian was very intelligent, she was still confused by Chu Yang's sudden words. "Well, you still don't understand. Husband and wife reunite means that I have brought you your empress. And she's still alive." Chu Yang laughed. "Qianqian? She?" Tai Butian stood up abruptly. "Where is she? Quickly take me to see her." Wu Qianqian blushed. She lowered her head and walked in slowly. "Qianqian." Tai Butian cheered. She went around Chu Yang and pounced over at lightning speed. She hugged Wu Qianqian. "The heavens have taken pity on you. You've finally woken up, my poor sister." Wu Qianqian was also very excited. Good friends, comrades in arms, and roommates from back then were finally reunited again. She also felt a little embarrassed. It seemed that they would have to serve the same husband from now on and be different roommates. The two women held hands and talked excitedly. The feelings of reunion after a long separation were overflowing in their words. Chu Yang quietly pushed the door open and walked out. He would leave this space and time completely to these two women. Chu Yang was not very suitable to listen to women's topics. Walking out of the door and into the courtyard, he saw Duan Sungkong instructing people to do work. There was also a team of martial artists practicing at the side. These are the people brought over by the giant spirit saber. They've all been assigned to our Chu clan's courtyard. Duan Sungkong smiled and explained, Thunder Wild Saber's people are still on the way. They're relatively far away and will only arrive in about 2 days. Yes. Chu Yang nodded and suddenly smiled mysteriously. "Elder Duan, let me tell you something good. Tonight, let's try to circulate our martial arts. Except for the resurrection grass, all the materials are ready, right?" One could understand the meaning of the song. Duan Sungkong's eyes suddenly widened. He was so excited that he almost could not speak. "Lord, could it be that the resurrection grass?" Chu Yang smiled and nodded. "I told you it's something good. Of course, it's in my hand." Duan Sungkong's body trembled violently. He was actually stunned. The greatest wish of his life was about to be fulfilled. From now on, he could completely get rid of the shackles of his old injuries and laugh proudly in the world again. Chu Yang quietly left. Duan Sungkong needed to adjust his state of mind. Otherwise, if he were to draw out the saber energy of the infinite invincible saber in such an agitated state, there was a great chance that Duan Sungkong's body would collapse and be completely destroyed. "Brother Hu." Chu Yang thought for a while and decided to take precautions to eliminate all the hidden dangers at the moment. In the past few days, there had been a faint shadow shrouding his heart. This was an ominous sign. Chu Yang had never doubted this feeling of his. In fact, it was this vigilance that allowed him to avoid many potential dangers. Since he had such a premonition, something was definitely going to happen. And this thing was bound to be very unfavorable to him. "What's the matter?" Brother Who stroked his beard. "I have something to ask of you," Chu Yang said cautiously. "What's the matter? Just say it. With Brother Who around, it won't be difficult." Brother Who took on everything. "It's like this." Chu Yang gestured as he spoke. "No problem. But I have a condition." Brother Who raised his head and said proudly. "What condition?" "Say it," Chu Yang said. He had long been prepared for Brother Who to take advantage of the situation. "I want 2 pieces of souls of the purple crystal. This isn't a lot. In exchange for my full help, it's worth it." Brother Who was clearly lacking in confidence. "Souls of the purple crystal." Chu Yang frowned, looking very hesitant. Just as Brother Who's mood had hit rock bottom and he was about to lower the price automatically, Chu Yang suddenly asked, "How many more souls of the purple crystal do you need now to recover your injuries to the maximum limit that the purple crystal's energy can recover?" Brother Who was stunned. Then, he said, "How many pieces? Why do I still need 15 pieces? This is the minimum amount, 15 pieces. I'll give you 20 pieces. Use as much as you want." Chu Yang's words caused Brother Who to pass out completely. "Recover your strength to the limit that you can recover as soon as possible. Something big is likely to happen in the next few days." Chu Yang's expression was very grave. His voice was also very grave. He already had a premonition that a huge storm could come at any time. Although he didn't know what it was exactly, Chu Yang believed that it was definitely not a small matter. In order to get through this inexplicable crisis, Chu Yang was already sparing no expense. This premonition of crisis gave him too much pressure and too strong. Chu Yang didn't even have any confidence that he could guarantee that nothing would go wrong. "No problem." Brother Who cheered and jumped up, his tail wagging wildly. "What level can you reach after swallowing 20 pieces of souls of the purple crystal?" Chu Yang asked cautiously. "At least heavenly man level. This level shouldn't be a problem." Brother Who was full of confidence. "Heavenly man level, if it's enough, it's barely enough. But if the old monsters on the other side attack, then it's still not enough." Chu Yang pondered. "Forget it. You'd better swallow these souls of the purple crystal first before talking about anything else." Chu Yang made up his mind fiercely. If it really didn't work, then he would just smash it with heavy pills. Smash it until you recovered even one more point. "I'm going all out." Chapter 2079. Returning to Infinite Boundless Mountain, the Sword Spirit was shocked as soon as he arrived. No. He should have been greatly shocked. The scene in front of him was too shocking. Ever since the Sword Spirit displayed his might and sealed the Death Chi, Infinite Boundless Mountain had been packed with people these days. But now, the entire mountain was empty, and the area below was covered with countless corpses. Blood flowed like a river, and the smell of blood spread 500 miles away with the wind. The Sword Spirit couldn't help but sigh. These people were really murderous. And, there were so many people. So many had died, but there were still so many people fighting. What were they trying to do? How could they pass? In the crowd, the black-clothed Wang Dao walked slowly, expressionless, his eyes like a vulture's. Some people who saw him avoided him, afraid that they would be targeted by this killing god. This guy was really too terrifying. Once he attacked, there would be no return without blood. Once he attacked, there would be no exceptions. In just a few days' effort, Wang Dao had already been crowned with an elegant title that even he himself didn't know, Destiny's Blade. Destiny couldn't be defied. Once he attacked, it was destiny that wanted you dead. Death in one slash. Although he had only made his debut for a short time, he had already established a fierce reputation. Under the heaven grade, there was no match for him. At this time, There were still several groups of people fighting with their lives on the mountainside. It was unknown what they were fighting for. Dragging his saber, Wang Dao walked forward coldly, watching the battle with cold eyes. Unexpectedly, when the dozen or so people saw Wang Dao coming over, they immediately screamed and ran away in panic. They didn't even want to fight. Saber of Destiny is here. Everyone scattered like birds and beasts. Everyone panicked and didn't know where to go, hating their parents for not giving birth to them with 2 more legs. Wang Dao's eyes flickered slightly. Once upon a time, he was just an ordinary farmer's boy, and anyone could bully him. But now, there were so many people who he could only look up to in awe, running away in panic after seeing him. If he could restart his life, would he choose to continue being that boy, with nothing else to ask for as long as he could reunite with his family? Or would he choose his current life? Wang Dao closed his eyes, shook his head, and waved away this unrealistic question. Holding his saber, he walked away. Wherever he went, the people there would make way for him. The sword spirit was dumbfounded. How awe-inspiring. Well, who is the Blade of Destiny? Was he talking about Wang Dao? What a domineering nickname. Looking down the mountain, he saw that there was originally a very spacious area at the foot of the mountain. Demonic chi filled the sky. It was clear that the demon army from the Heaven Imperial Court had finally arrived. The allure of the ruins was indeed shocking. Even the demon race couldn't resist it. They had crossed several planes to rush over. The members of the demon race were all grotesquely shaped. Some were handsome, some were perfect, and some were extremely ugly. They all went to extremes, with donkeys' lips and horses' mouths, bulls' heads and dogs' faces. As expected, it's a group of demons dancing wildly and bewitching all living beings. The sword spirit shook his head and entered the long sword formed by the sword intent again. In the blink of an eye, the black chi that was gushing out suddenly retracted and returned to its original state of trickling out. Suddenly, a strong wind blew across the sky, blowing away all the chilly aura of death lingering on the mountaintop in just a short while. This sudden change instantly attracted everyone's attention. The chilly aura returned to its original state a few days ago. Such a huge change naturally shocked everyone. They couldn't help but make guesses. Why did it suddenly return to normal? What's going on? Facing this strange change, all the major sects finally reacted. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A few figures came to the mountaintop like shooting stars. Shuexian, Hai Bo, and all the other senior experts of the same level landed on the mountaintop at the same time. They were afraid that they would miss out if they were late. Their expressions were solemn. They didn't go near the long sword that was flickering with cold light. They only observed the surroundings, paying attention to any clues. Strange. Since it can suppress it to this extent, why didn't it suppress the aura of death for an entire day? Why did it let the aura of death spread? Could it be that there's a limit to this sword's power, and after suppressing it to a certain extent, it has to be suspended for a certain period of time? There was a similar suspension in the past, just that it didn't last this long. Why do I always feel like I'm being spied on every time I come here? There's obviously no one around, but this feeling is abnormally strong. One of them frowned. The sword spirit followed his advice and immediately stopped looking around. His body completely merged with the long sword. I also have the same feeling. I thought I was too sensitive, but it turns out that everyone has the same feeling. Shuexian frowned and looked around. Suddenly, she saw Wu Zhangxiu. He was staring at her without any concealment. His eyes were full of love. She couldn't help but sigh heavily. This guy is really annoying. I can't really kill him. It's killing me. Elder Mu of the Heavenly Sword Alliance frowned and muttered, could this situation be a sign that the divine soul of the calamity below has awakened? It's fighting against this sword. And today, the aura of death has surged violently. Perhaps it was this sword that was at a disadvantage. Or maybe the two are equal. That's why the chilly aura of death has surged. The divine soul of the calamity had a similar movement before, but it was completely suppressed. At most, it only surged violently for a moment. Another person came to a realization. Now that everything is calm, It should be that the divine soul of the calamity has been suppressed again. That should be the case. In that case, this sword can actually suppress a mature and awakened divine soul of the calamity. The power of this sword is really shocking. The moment this sentence was said, the eyes of the 30-over-old guys lit up. They stared at the sword like searchlights. The sword spirit felt uncomfortable being stared at by so many eyes. Not only the sword spirit, anyone would feel uncomfortable being surrounded by so many expectant, longing, and covetous eyes. Xuezian snorted and said in a strange tone, "What? Do you all want this sword?" "Sure. But I don't know if you have the ability to pick it up." The moment this question was asked, all of them became discouraged. Pick it up? How? How many people have died because of getting close to this sword? There's no lack of experts. We've all seen it with our own eyes. Why would we take the risk? Xuezian snorted and said, "All of you can't even pick it up, and you're still dreaming? Even if you can pick up that sword, can you afford to offend the owner of this sword? Of course, if any of you have the ability to pick up that sword, you should be able to deal with the owner of the sword. The problem is, which one of you can?" All of the old men's faces turned red. "All of you are idiots who don't know your own limits." Xuezian didn't let them off and mocked them to her heart's content. Speaking of which, Xuezian was a very gentle woman. However, the fact that the various realms concealed the news of the battle in advance caused the Eastern Royal Heavens to suffer a huge loss. Even though Xuezian was a clay figurine, she still had some temper. Thus, every word she said was filled with sarcasm. Xuezian's words were undoubtedly sharp and unkind, but they exposed the truth. An old man said angrily, "Xuezian, what do you mean by that? It's fine if everyone knows about some things. Even if you say it out loud, we won't bicker with you on account that you're a woman. But it's fine if you say it out loud, but you're still not done. Do you really think that we're afraid of you?" Xuezian was worried that she didn't have an excuse to flare up. When she heard that, she instantly flew into a rage. "What? So what if I'm a woman? Women still know how to take responsibility for their actions. They don't hide and play dirty tricks. So what if I say a few more words? What I said wasn't true, so I'm not done. What can you do about it? I can see that you're afraid of me. If you're not convinced, come and spar with me. Do you dare?" Xuezian wanted to cause trouble to vent her anger, so her words were naturally as unpleasant as they could be. That old man was so angry that his face turned red. Look, what is this? Are you scolding me like a shrew?" Although he said that, this old man really didn't dare to go against Xuezian. His strength was slightly inferior to Wu Zhangxiu's, so how could he dare to spar with Xuezian? That wasn't a spar, it was simply asking for a beating. After all, not everyone was like Wu Zhangxiu, who enjoyed being beaten up. Xuezian stepped forward. "So what if I say that you're greedy? So what if I say that you're delusional? So what if I say that you're not capable? So what if I say that you can't afford to offend others? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" That old man was forced to step back. Suddenly, he was furious. "Xuezian, do you really think that you've got me? I really don't care about you." Xuezian raised her eyebrows and pulled out her long sword. She looked angry. "A bunch of people who only know how to play tricks. Why are you pulling out your sword? Let me teach you how to be a person. At least, I'll let you be more humane." Clang. That old man couldn't take it anymore. He shook his wrist and pulled out his long sword. The old man was also a high-ranking person of a sect. He couldn't afford to lose face like this. He would rather be beaten to death than be bullied to death. Both sides were in a heated atmosphere. They were on the verge of a fight. Or it should be said that the arrow was on the bow and had to be released. At this moment, Wu Zhangxiu rushed out and inserted himself between the two. He waved his hand and said, "Everyone, calm down. Calm down. Give me some face," that old man said angrily. "Wu Zhangxiu, this has nothing to do with you. What are you doing?" Wu Zhangxiu's face was full of smiles. He said, "I shouldn't interfere in the matter between Xuezian and you. Besides, I'm shy and don't know how to talk." That old man's face relaxed a little. It was pure nonsense to say that Wu Zhangxiu was shy. However, he came out to mediate at this moment, which was what the old man wanted. As long as he could avoid a direct PK with Xuezian, it was fine to let Wu Zhangxiu talk. Chapter 2080. What a vicious slap. It came so suddenly that it caught everyone off guard, and it was even more ferocious. The old man's entire body spun like a top, and he flew out horizontally just like that. Speaking of which, these two people's cultivations were roughly on par. Although the old man was slightly weaker, if they really fought, even if Wu Zhangxiu could win, it would take at least a few hundred rounds. It was impossible to take him down in a short time. But this time, the distance between the two was too close, and the old man was caught off guard. Furthermore, Wu Zhangxiu's tone, voice, and expression were too confusing, and the old man suffered a huge loss. Seeing the old man's body fly out, everyone's mouths were wide open, and they turned to look at Wu Zhangxiu in a daze. This guy was really cunning. It seemed that he had to re-evaluate this fellow. Seeing him approach with a simple and honest face, everyone thought that he was going to be a peacemaker, trying to smooth things over. Who would have thought that he would actually come up with such an explosive move? It was simply too shocking. It was also too shocking. Thinking back to that simple and honest slap, everyone was sweating profusely. Motherfucker, such a confusing attack. I believe that if it were me, I wouldn't be able to dodge it either. Wu Zhangxiu. This old man and you cannot exist under the same sky. The old man flew back as soon as he landed, his long hair standing straight in anger. He had suffered such a huge loss today, and he really couldn't die in peace. If he didn't get it back, how would he have the face to stand in front of others? In the midst of shame, and anger, his sword flashed, and he actually went all out. Hey, I'm talking about that, don't use your mouth and not your hands. Wu Zhangxiu shouted. Hurry up and stop, I'll have a good discussion with you, and let everyone be the judge. If I'm really wrong, the old man glared at him. What are you going to do if you're wrong? Don't tell me that Xuezian was right when she scolded me just now. Wu Zhangxiu said angrily, what do you know? Come, everyone come and judge. He actually seemed to be very angry, and he turned to look at everyone. Is he wrong, or am I wrong? I'll hit him. The old man angrily rushed forward. If you want to judge, then judge. I don't believe that there isn't. Suddenly, at this time, Wu Zhangxiu suddenly kicked the old man's dantian fiercely. With a hoo sound, he kicked the old man away and shouted, I hit him. Can't I hit him? So what if I hit him? It was another kick that caught him off guard. At this moment, everyone's eyebrows twitched. Fuck. This was too shameless. Too despicable. Too despicable. Too despicable. This time, Wu Zhangxiu didn't wait for his opponent to get up, and directly pounced on him. He caught up with the old man in the air, whose body was bent like a prawn after being kicked. Wu Zhangxiu fiercely cursed as he rained punches and kicks on him. So I hit you. So what if I hit you? Come and hit me. Come and hit me. Come and fucking hit me. Fuck. How dare you draw your sword against me? I told you to draw your sword. I told you to draw your sword. You're despicable. You're despicable. You're fucking despicable. Your whole family is despicable. I'm scared of you when you draw your sword. I'm scared of you. I'm scared of you. I'm scared to death of you. You dare to hit me. You fucking dare to hit me back. Hit me back. Hit me back. Hit me back. Why aren't you hitting me back? I'm fucking asking you to hit me back. Why aren't you hitting me back? Bang bang bang, pu. When everyone rushed forward and forcefully pulled the two apart, the poor old man had already fainted from the beating. His head and face were full of blood and dirt. Half of the reason why he fainted was because he was angry, and the other half was because he was sullen. If it was just a beating, he definitely wouldn't have fainted. Wu Zhangxiu's attacks were very measured, and he definitely wouldn't kill anyone. But this was really too sullen. Wu Zhangxiu stood up proudly, and put his face in front of Xuezian. Xian, hey, you see, I told you that this old thing is no match for me. How can that old thing keep up with me? He's strong and strong, Shall we? Xuexian's face was full of black lines, and she said in a low and furious voice, Scram. Who told you to meddle in other people's business? Wu Zhangxiu nodded and bowed. If you tell me to scram, I'll scram immediately, and I'll scram non-stop. Do you want to see how I'll roll? Roll vertically, roll horizontally, or roll in a ball. Before he finished speaking, a scream instantly rang out. Wu Zhangxiu had already been kicked in the stomach by Xuexian, and he was like a rubber ball, and he really rolled non-stop down the steep mountain peak. In the blink of an eye, he had already scrammed, and disappeared without a trace. All the old men turned around, and a few of them were already planning to settle the score with Wu Zhangxiu. But they realized that he had already disappeared. Just as they were about to fly into a rage, they met Xuexian's cold eyes, and Hai Bo, who was at the side, was glaring at them covetously with his sword hilt in his hand. They gritted their teeth and said, Xian, this method is too despicable. Xuexian said indifferently, Is it up to me whether it's despicable or not? Let's not talk about whether Wu Zhangxiu is related to me or not. Whether he was ordered by me or not, even if he was ordered by me, do you have any objections? Who has any objections, step forward. The few old men were so angry that their mouths and eyes were twisted, but no one dared to step forward. After all, although that old man belonged to a supersect, he was from a lower-tier supersect. How could they offend dreamlike Veranda's Xuexian in the eastern royal heavens for such a person? Soon after, a large group of people came up to mediate. They were all 10,000-year-old old demons, and they all knew that it was absolutely stupid to fight now. The group of people argued and pulled each other. Then, they walked down in a single file. That unconscious old man had already woken up. With a bruised face, he flew out to settle the score with Wu Zhangxiu. Hai Bo walked in front of Xuexian and said softly, Xian, actually, that old Wu is really sincere to you. He took on such a big trouble for you without even saying a word. I think you should consider taking him. If you miss out on him, you'll. Before he could finish, he met Xuexian's murderous gaze. He raised his hand bitterly and said, All right, just take it that I didn't say anything. Xuexian snorted angrily with a murderous aura. She extended her body and flew away. Tai Butian and Wu Qianqian, the husband and wife, reunited after a long separation, seemed to have endless room talk. The two chatted and laughed at the side of the room. They actually chatted for more than 4 hours and still had not finished. Tai Butian also told Wu Qianqian about how Chu Yang and the rest fought against the big clans, how they fought against the law enforcement officers, how they destroyed the Dharma Supreme, how they resolved the biggest crisis of the heavenly layer, how they rushed up to the heavenly layer, and so on. Wu Qianqian listened with great interest. She interjected from time to time, asking Tai Butian to explain in more detail. At the end of the story, Wu Qianqian asked, This, that, both of you have come up, where's Yang? When it came to the people closest to Yang, other than Tai Butian, it would be Wu Qianqian. Even Chu Yang and Ning Tianya had to be ranked behind. Tai Butian's face turned red. She said hatefully, Don't mention that little heartless fellow. The two of them colluded to usurp the throne. Usurp the throne? What do you mean? Wu Qianqian's beautiful eyes widened. She was stunned for a moment. Then, as if she had already understood, she burst into laughter. Tai Butian also found it funny. Then, she explained, the two of them dragged me up to the upper 3 heavens. Then, when I returned, I discovered that the throne had already changed hands. I had already become the late empress. That's roughly what happened. Wu Qianqian found it even more funny. She laughed so hard that she could not catch her breath. Tai Butian snorted and said in a low voice, Are you laughing at me? I'd like to ask my empress, what exactly did you do when you came in with such a lustful look on your face? Tell me the truth. Did you put a colored hat on me? Wu Qianqian's face and ears were red. She did not speak for a long time. Even her neck was red. Tai Butian was not going to let it go. Tell me quickly, otherwise, I'll punish you severely. Wu Qianqian steeled her heart and decided to turn the tables. What else could I have done? I did those things that he did to you. This time, Tai Butian's face also turned red. She said angrily, You little hussy, What do you know? Don't spout nonsense. You're slandering me. Wu Qianqian snorted. She leaned close to her ear and whispered, Your Majesty, is my junior brother serving you well? Tai Butian's face instantly turned red. In her embarrassment, she pounced on Wu Qianqian and tickled her. Wu Qianqian turned her body to avoid him. But she was still scratched. So, she repeatedly begged for mercy, Your Majesty, please spare my life. I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to do it again. I won't say it again. By the way, what do you do when you're together? Another round of playful noises. Then, the two women leaned their heads together and whispered. Their faces were red and their eyes were watery. They were so embarrassed that they could not restrain themselves. Chu Yang stood outside the door. His heart was burning as he listened. Somewhere, he was ready for battle and ready for a showdown. Then, he could not hold it in anymore. He pushed the door open and barged in. Ah! The two women screamed in fear and turned their heads in a panic. When they saw Chu Yang, they didn't know what to think, and even their necks turned red. What are the two of you talking about so happily? Tell me too. Let me be happy too. Chu Yang walked to the side of the bed calmly and sat down between the two. He reached out and the two women fell into his arms. Nothing. Tai Butian blushed. It's really nothing. Wu Qianqian emphasized with a red face. That's not right. Chu Yang blinked and said, I heard everything just now. You heard everything? The two women screamed at the same time. What did you hear? Chapter 2081. At this point, the two girls, who were already extremely embarrassed, pressed down on the bed and covered their mouths. Say it again, woo-woo. Chu Yang's mouth was gagged and he couldn't speak. He suddenly stuck out his tongue and licked Tai Butian's hand that was covering his mouth. Tai Butian shuddered and the strength in her hand disappeared instantly. Chu Yang used a trick and broke free. Then, the two big hands entered the Empress's clothes without any warning. They grabbed a ball of soft flesh and rubbed it gently. Then, Chu Yang teased, Your Majesty, it seems to have gotten a lot bigger here. Tai Butian was so embarrassed that her whole body went soft. She said, Let go. Qianqian is still here. Wu Qianqian blushed and stood up hurriedly. She said, You guys go ahead. I still have something to do. She was about to escape. However, Chu Yang reached out and grabbed her. She stumbled and fell onto the bed. Chu Yang hugged Tai Butian with one hand. Then, he flipped over and pressed Wu Qianqian under his body. He covered Wu Qianqian's little mouth with his big mouth. His other hand reached into Wu Qianqian's lapel with great familiarity. With a flick and a swipe, Wu Qianqian's lapel was already half open, revealing her snow-white shoulders and half of her soft breasts. The two girls were so embarrassed that they struggled vigorously at the same time. Minister Chu is worthy of being called Minister Chu. How can he let a cooked duck fly away at such a critical juncture? His two large hands moved up and down, showing off his superb hand skills. Wait for me to serve Your Majesty. Junior Marshal brother will also serve Senior Marshal sister. Let's do it together. It didn't take long. The two girls were no match for him even if they joined hands. They had already turned into two puddles of fragrant mud and fell onto the bed weakly. They knew that they shouldn't do this and that it was really too embarrassing. But they really couldn't resist someone's forceful attack. Chu Yang made a series of movements in a flurry. Suddenly, two white and tender bodies appeared on the bed. He stood up and roughly took off his clothes. His eyes lit up as he pressed himself on top of the two bodies that fit perfectly. Ooh, someone moaned. This sound was like a bugle horn that signaled the start of the battle. Chu Yang immediately fell into an extremely brave and ferocious battle mode. He was invincible in besieging cities and raiding strongholds. He rode his horse and held his spear, madly fighting against the world, emitting another 3 million words. Chu Yang lay on the bed in high spirits after a full half-hour. His whole body felt very comfortable and refreshed. Tai Butian's hair was in a mess on both sides of his body. Wu Qianqian was gasping for breath. The two women felt that they couldn't even move their little fingers. It's so comfortable. Chu Yang sighed with satisfaction. This is the life of an immortal. Chu Yang had fantasized countless times before, but never had the chance to carry out the threesome. But today, he had finally achieved his wish. The satisfaction in Chu Yang's heart was unparalleled. In particular, Minister Chu was thinking in his heart, everything is difficult at the beginning. As long as there is a first time, then it is a beginning. In the future, won't I be able to taste delicious food at any time? Thinking of this, Minister Chu laughed obscenely. He 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 he. Hearing this perverted laughter, the two women were embarrassed and angry. They wanted to reach out and pinch him, but they didn't have any strength left. It was as if their whole bodies were cramping, and they went limp. Pervert. Scoundrel. Tai Butian rested for a long while before she finally cursed out loud in shame. Thinking about how Wu Qianqian had actually seen her at her most embarrassing state, the former emperor wished that there was a hole in the ground to jump into and never come out again. It was so embarrassing. At the side, Wu Qianqian buried her face in the quilt, refusing to raise her head. Tai Butian was obviously very embarrassed, and Wu Qianqian was even more embarrassed. Today was their first time, and then they slept together under such a lewd and unruly quilt. What should they do in the future? Chu Yang was proud of himself. So what if I'm a pervert? So what if I'm a scoundrel? Hee hee. As long as it's comfortable. The two women scolded at the same time. They struggled to prop themselves up and bit hard on his shoulders, one on each side. Chu Yang grimaced. But how could he not let them vent after taking such great advantage of him? He just had to endure it. Just this once. Tai Butian's face was red, but her voice was resolute and decisive. There definitely won't be a next time. At the side, Wu Qianqian nodded desperately, expressing her agreement and support. There won't be a next time. Chu Yang flipped over and pressed down on Tai Butian again. Your Majesty's words are law, so I'll definitely do as you say. Since that's the case, let's play a few more times, in case we don't have another chance in the future. As he spoke, he was about to touch her. Tai Butian felt the fiery pressure and threat, and couldn't help but turn pale. Even in her dreams, she didn't expect Chu Yang to be able to regain his vigor so quickly. She hurriedly begged for mercy. No, 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 no. I can't take it. Chu Yang straddled his horse and looked down from above. Then tell me, will there be a next time? Tai Butian looked at him with a red face and gritted teeth. She said angrily, definitely not. Chu Yang nodded. His body suddenly bent down and he said, all right. She slowly moved her waist forward. In a panic, Tai Butian shouted, Chen, quickly come and save me. Wu Qianqian couldn't even wait to protect herself. How would she dare to save her? It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. She wanted to take this opportunity to get off the bed quietly, but the moment she moved, she was hugged by Chu Yang. Trying to run? If you don't give me an answer today, neither of you can get off this bed. If you don't agree, then we can only have fun today. After a long, long time, after another storm, Chu Yang was extremely satisfied and chuckled. Under Minister Chu's extremely violent attacks, the two women were finally forced to sign an agreement. They agreed to Great Manor Master Chu's licentious and tyrannical request. After a long time, the two women gritted their teeth and put on their clothes. They only felt limp and sore all over their bodies. The gaze they looked at Chu Yang with was even more furious and hateful. This guy is simply an animal, a beast. It was a never-ending torrential downpour and stormy waves. Who can stand him? Fortunately, there is still Chen. Fortunately, there is still His Majesty. The two women thought so in their hearts. The two women who finally recovered had a frosty look on their faces. Their expressions were cold and solemn, and they completely ignored Chu Yang. Even if they didn't consider the exhaustion of their physical strength, just the shyness and the alliance between them made the two women feel so ashamed that they wanted to crawl into a hole and crawl into it. Even in their dreams, they didn't expect that they would actually sleep together with this beast. In fact, today was just a beginning. Another day. At this point, even when the two women occasionally looked at each other, they immediately turned their heads away. Then, their pretty faces flushed and they were extremely uneasy. Thinking of how their most embarrassing side was clearly seen by another person, this kind of embarrassment, this kind of absurdity, almost completely overturned the two women's previous understanding. What was even more frightening was that in the future, there would probably be more like this, and it was very likely that other women would join in. At least one Mo Qingwu wouldn't be able to escape. Cough. Could this be the legendary Immortals' Day? Great Manor Master Chu stretched lazily as he walked out. He shook his hips, waist, and neck, and his face looked like a weasel who had just eaten chicken. A certain someone was addicted to it, and even signed an agreement to fulfill his great wish. How could he not feel refreshed and happy? Humph. The two women were embarrassed in their hearts at the same time. Their faces were full of anger as they turned their faces away. Thinking back to those days, both of us were at the pinnacle of the world. We commanded the entire world. We were in charge of life and death. We were heroes who looked down on the common people. How could we sleep together with you like this? And, you're still acting so, humph. That, I say, Qianqian. Chu Yang knew that the two women definitely couldn't accept everything in their hearts. He ignored the two women's frosty faces and said to himself, let me tell you, we're very short on rooms now, and we're very free. We don't have any extra rooms for you, so you can stay with Qianqian for the time being. Anyway, such a big courtyard is enough for the two of you to live in. You two have reunited after such a long time, so you should be affectionate and affectionate. Yes, you can sleep together in bed. What a wonderful thing, I can't wait for it to happen. Beautiful scenery, a good family, and a full moon. You can be close to your bosom friends, whispering and speaking freely. Under the moonlight and flowers, you can take care of each other, protect each other, and exchange ideas. Ha ha! That would be such a wonderful thing. Just thinking about it makes me envious, jealous, and eager to participate in it. Chu Yang shamelessly fantasized for a while. Speaking of the thickness of his skin, Minister Chu was definitely at the peak of perfection, unparalleled. Such a big courtyard, hundreds of acres of land, and Wu Qianqian couldn't stay in it. Only Great Manor Master Chu could say something like that. Good. What's good about it? What's good about it? Do you think we don't know what kind of intentions you have? Tai Bu Tian said coldly, letting me stay with Qianqian. I'm afraid the biggest convenience is to make it convenient for a pervert like you, right? How can you say that about me? You've hurt my heart too much. Chu Yang widened his eyes. Am I that kind of person? Am I that kind of person in your heart? Tai Bu Tian's almond eyes widened, full of anger. Fine, I'll let you say it yourself. What kind of person are you? You say it. Chu Yang said with awe-inspiring righteousness. I, your husband, am naturally a righteous man. The two women looked at each other, stunned and speechless for a long time. After a long while, Wu Qianqian said, a righteous ruler? You. Do you believe what you're saying? Chu Yang chuckled and said, why wouldn't I believe it? Don't you think I know what kind of person I am? Even if I don't know, how can the two of you not know? The two women were dumbfounded again. They never thought that there would actually be such a shameless person in this world. Tai Bu Tian said fiercely, fine, since you call yourself a righteous ruler and are so righteous, then shouldn't you do something that a righteous ruler should do? You also said that our conditions are limited, and our rooms are even smaller. This room belongs to the two of us. You're not allowed to enter in the future. Hurry up and do those righteous ruler things. The two of us won't disturb you from doing your business. Chapter 2082. How thick-skinned was Chu Yang? His expression remained righteous as he said, just make the room smaller. Make it smaller, I won't mind. Both of you are my women. It's proper for me to work with both of you. In order to emphasize, he even emphasized the word certain. The two women blushed even more. Their beauty was truly out of this world. Wu Qianqian said, you asked us to do that just now. That's also proper. Of course it's proper. If it wasn't proper, would you have agreed? Both of you personally promised and agreed to it just now. It can be seen that it's proper. Chu Yang grinned. You still dare to say it. You still dare to say it. Thinking of how they were forced to agree just now, the two women felt hot all over. Forget it, forget it. I'll leave this small world to the two of you for the time being. Chu Yang turned and slipped away. I'll go ahead and take a look first. Before the two women could protest, Chu Yang reached out and touched Tai Butian's soft breasts and Wu Qianqian's perky buttocks. The two women screamed. Chu Yang laughed. This is so soft, this is so big, both are so bouncy, haha. His smug expression disappeared in a flash. The two women looked at each other. Their faces were red and didn't fade for a long time. Facing this woman who was sharing a man with them, both of them felt a little complicated. Their eyes flickered a few times and they smiled bitterly at the same time. You. Both of them opened and closed their mouths at the same time. You first. You first. Again, both of them opened and closed their mouths at the same time. The two couldn't help but look at each other and laugh at the same time. This laughter seemed to have completely broken the stiff atmosphere. Your Majesty, what should we do now? Wu Qianqian frowned. Tai Butian also smiled bitterly at this. What should they do? What else could they do? They could only do it that way. The two women were very opinionated and had their own ideas. When faced with such a situation, although they were still discussing it verbally, it was just a kind of subconscious psychological barrier that they couldn't accept for the time being. It was completely different from the actual decision. There's no other way. Anyway, there's nothing I can do. Tai Butian shook her head. According to Chu Yang's temperament, even if we resist, it'll be of no use. We'll only invite even greater suppression. Don't forget that he can use shameless and hooligan methods to achieve his goal. Can you be more shameless than him? Wu Qianqian blushed and said, even if there's no other way, we have to think of some countermeasures. Don't tell me there's no other way and we just let him do whatever he wants. What would happen then? Tai Butian snorted and said with a sidelong glance, if you don't let him do as he pleases, do you think you'll be able to deal with him yourself? Since you've become his woman, accept your fate. Wu Qianqian's face reddened to her ears. She recalled Chu Yang's beast-like charge and his seemingly never-ending vigor. She couldn't help but feel weak all over. She couldn't help but admit that she couldn't face such an energetic madman alone. Even he and Tai Butian were barely able to cope with it just now, let alone himself. If he was alone, then it would be terrible. Forget it, just accept your fate. Besides, Tai Butian said indifferently, you also looked like you enjoyed it a lot just now. You were moaning so loudly and wantonly. Wu Qianqian was so ashamed that she couldn't show her face. She said angrily, who are you talking about? Are you talking about yourself? You started moaning when he pressed down on you just now. You even fainted in the end, right? You closed your eyes and moaned. You don't know shame and still have the cheek to talk about others. Tai Butian pounced on her bashfully. Watch me beat you to death, you little wh*re who's full of nonsense. Wu Qianqian didn't want to be outdone. She immediately retaliated. The two women tangled together. Not long after, their hair was in a mess and they were panting heavily. But with this commotion, it also meant that this matter had become a foregone conclusion and was accepted. After a long time. Okay, let's talk about something serious. Tai Butian tidied her clothes. Qian, our situation hasn't been very good during this period. We've just come up and our foundation is especially unstable. Since you're here, you can help me. I can also heave a sigh of relief. Wu Qianqian blushed. What can I help with? Didn't you already help me? Wu Qianqian wasn't as sensitive as Tai Butian. She was a first-time wife and would habitually extend everything to a certain special aspect. You're really a little lecherous woman. Tai Butian pursed her lips and said in a low voice, let's not talk about other things. Didn't you manage the Heavenly Armament Pavilion in Chu Yang's place before? Now, we can just follow the rules as usual. You have experience in this area. It's completely effortless. We can make the best use of your talents. Then tonight, you still want to run away at night? Tai Butian sighed. Wu Qianqian's cheeks flushed red. Besides, we can't give up on our cultivation. We must improve as quickly as possible. Tai Butian's gaze was focused. She said indifferently, although you and I are women, we once controlled the world. If women like us blindly stay behind men and seek protection, then, how can we accept it? Wu Chen nodded deeply. What level are you at now? I should be at the human level now. Tai Butian said. If it weren't for Chu Yang's large amount of elixirs and the fact that he changed my muscles and cleansed my marrow every day, it wouldn't have been easy for me to reach this level. Although I'm at the human level, I'm still far from a real expert. What about you? Tai Butian asked Wu Chen. I just woke up. How would I know what level my cultivation is at now? When I was unconscious, I was only at the 5th tier of the martial saint level. Now, Wu Chen frowned and said hesitantly, since I woke up this time, I can feel that the power in my body has taken a big step forward. But I'm really not sure what level I've reached. Circulate your energy and let me see. Tai Butian said with a trace of fantasy. After a long while. Oh my God. How is this possible? It's impossible. Tai Butian exclaimed. She was completely shocked by Wu Chen. You've actually reached the earth level. This is too unbelievable. Wu Chen, who was opposite her, was also perplexed. She said, I don't know. What earth level? Looking at the faint yellow light emitted from her body, Wu Chen also felt a little dizzy. How would they know that in the process of reversing life and death, Chu Yang had used a large amount of energy and elixirs? During the period when Wu Chen was unconscious, Chu Yang had fed her countless heavenly treasures. The spring of life that others yearned for was not cherished by Wu Chen at all. She directly treated it as her daily drinking water. There was also that super heavy pill and a piece of resurrection grass that was more than 150,000 years old. They completely stimulated the medicinal power in Wu Chen body and completely reformed her meridians. Very little of the medicinal power hidden in her body was wasted, and it was converted into Wu Chen's own cultivation. This allowed Wu Chen's cultivation to reach the heavens in a single bound. But Wu Chen herself did not know all these. Tai Butian naturally did not know either. In fact, even Chu Yang himself was a little confused. Unless the sword spirit helped to analyze from the beginning, only then would it be possible to understand the whole story. Otherwise, it would be a complete mystery. Looks like I need to speed up my cultivation. Tai Butian muttered. Then, she seemed to have thought of something and her face suddenly turned red. She said, Chen, I remember your master and his wife's martial arts. Wu Chen was very smart. She immediately understood what she meant. She said with a red face, you mean that moon breeze dual cultivation technique? Tai Butian's face was flushed red. She said, since that can't be avoided, why don't we just use it for cultivation? This is greatly beneficial to the three of us. Then, Wu Chen couldn't suppress her embarrassment. She lowered her head with a red face. Her eyes darted around a few times before she bit her lip and nodded slightly. That night, Chu Yang could really be said to have enjoyed all the luck in the world. Moreover, the effects of the moon breeze dual cultivation technique when cultivated by people like Chu Yang, Tai Butian, and Wu Chen were actually super immediate. In just one night, the three of them felt that their cultivation had solidified a lot. Moreover, there was a faint feeling that they were advancing rapidly. This was especially true for Chu Yang and Wu Chen. Both of them had special physiques and extraordinary talents. So, this feeling was especially intense. As for Tai Butian, although her aptitude was slightly inferior to the other two and was slightly slower, the Icy Heart Jade Bone physique was also an extremely rare physique. Even in the entire Heaven Circuit, it was considered a peerless talent. It was even better than those youths who had been upgraded by Chu Yang's magic treasures. However, Tai Butian started to feel a little anxious. Her cultivation was already inferior to the two of them in the first place. Now, she was falling behind step by step. How could this be? An emperor should have the dignity of an emperor. Even though she was a woman, her dignity was still the same. Therefore, in the end, Tai Butian couldn't care less about her shyness anymore. She pestered Chu Yang to cultivate crazily. Naturally, Chu Yang would never refuse such an invitation. Later on, due to a certain someone's stubbornness, Tai Butian actually fainted in the process of cultivating. It was obvious that Minister Chu had put in a lot of effort in his practice. Chu Yang hugged the beauty in his arms. The two of them slept peacefully in each other's arms. In the Chu clan's courtyard, in the shade of the small courtyard where Tai Butian stayed, brother who was lying comfortably on the ground. Ever since he had digested the 20 souls of purple crystal that Chu Yang had given him, he had taken the money to resolve the problem. Now that his cultivation had recovered, brother who naturally had to shoulder the heavy responsibility of protecting Tai Butian. With brother whose protection, Chu Yang finally felt more at ease. The next morning, Chu Yang had just woken up when someone suddenly came to report that a Duke Yuntian had requested an audience. Yuntian? Chu Yang was puzzled. What is he here for? Chu Yang was extremely wary of this person. In these few days, the invisible pressure in his heart had been increasing, causing Chu Yang to be constantly paranoid. However, he didn't discover anything out of the ordinary. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.